I travel from one world to another doing wholesale sales, and you call this the end of the world? This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 201 Old Wolf. Next, Sue connected to the video call of Grandpa Xia. Now Menenia has been completely paralyzed. If you want to go there, the only way is to send the warship sent by the Great Xia Kingdom to the port of Menenia to evacuate compatriots. When Sue proposed to go to Menenia alone to rescue people, he was naturally strongly opposed by Grandpa Xia. But after Sue showed the illusion, Grandpa Xia had to agree. Xiao Wei, you have to think about it. The current situation in Menenia has made it impossible for us to give you any support and help. Even if an accident occurs, we cannot investigate and rescue, Grandpa Xia said solemnly. To put it bluntly, if you go to Menenia now, you can only rely on yourself. Don't worry, Grandpa Xia, I will take good care of myself. Sue smiled and nodded. The person who can kill himself in this world has not been born yet. Even if a ceiling-level master of the Heavenly Dao comes in person, he can be teleported to the wasteland world. No matter how strong the Heavenly Dao is, it is impossible to travel through space. This is the effect we want. Okay, I will contact the warship for you right away. After saying that, Grandpa Xia hung up the call. Sister Wei, keep this. It contains my image. In the days ahead, you and Xiao Man will take turns pretending to be me and show up a little. Sue took out another magic illusion and gave it to Xia Wei. Okay, I know what to do. Xia Wei carefully put away the magic illusion, her eyes full of reluctance. Don't worry, you don't know my abilities yet. No one can catch me. Sue smiled and touched Xia Wei's pretty face. Well, you must protect yourself. Xia Wei reached out and pressed Sue's palm, feeling the familiar smell and temperature. Dong dong dong. At this time, someone knocked on the door of the office. Come in. The two hurriedly tidied up their appearance and stood up. The door opened, and Shangwen Fair, who looked surprised, walked in. Can we go now? Yes. With that, Sue left with Shangwen Fair. There was no military vehicle to pick him up this time, and Shangwen Fair drove him directly to the military base he had been to last time. Do you need weapons? Shangwen Fair asked when they left. No need. Sue smiled and shook his head. It would be better not to leave any traces. After that, he got into the armed helicopter alone. But the armed helicopter immediately took off and flew south. 2 hours later, the helicopter flew directly away from the mainland and entered the sky above the vast ocean. It was the first time for Sue to have such an experience. He looked at the scenery outside with great curiosity. The weather was very good today, with a clear sky and no clouds. The sea was also calm without a trace of waves, as if it was still. In this piece of heaven and earth, people suddenly felt refreshed. The helicopter kept flying and even refueled in the air during the period. I don't know how far it flew. Sue saw a destroyer sailing on the sea, flying the flag of the Great Xia Kingdom. The helicopter quickly caught up with the warship and landed on the helipad at the rear of the ship. Hello, I am Captain Ho Yuan of the Longbow. After Sue got off the plane, a middle-aged man in a naval uniform came up with several non-commissioned officers. Hello, Lao Lang. Sue changed his appearance on the way here and gave himself a code name. Now, he is a man in his 30s with a mediocre appearance. The kind that would be forgotten in a crowd. Please, Ho Yuan extended his hand and invited Sue to the captain's room. Comrade Lao Lang, I heard that you are going to Xiaozi factory in Menenia alone to rescue people, Ho Yuan asked after pouring a glass of water for Sue. Not bad, Sue nodded, trying to reduce his habitual movements as much as possible. I wonder if I can ask you for a task. Captain Ho Yuan carefully looked at the strange man in front of him, wondering what was so surprising about him that the superiors trusted him with such an important task. Oh? What task? Sue was stunned. One of our intelligence personnel was also trapped in Menenia, not far from the Xiaozi factory you are going to. I would like to ask Comrade Lao Lang to help bring him back together. If the superiors had not said that this person was absolutely reliable, Ho Yuan would not have said the content so easily. Okay, do you have a specific location? Sue agreed after thinking about it. After all, they were all saving people. Saving one person is saving two people is also saving people. It's just a piece of cake. Yes, Ho Yuan took out the information he had prepared long ago and handed it to Su Wei. There were two big words top secret printed on the cover. Su Wei didn't even look at it and opened it directly. Su Jin, female, 28 years old. Okay, Su Wei read 10 lines at a glance. He finished reading 2 or 3 pages of materials in a few breaths and wrote down the important parts. Okay, you have a good rest first. After saying that, Ho Yuan left the captain's room. He took the initiative to give his room to Su Wei to rest, and asked the soldiers to deliver food and drinks on time. 3 days later, the longbow destroyer arrived at the Nanming port of Manila. This is the only deep-sea port still controlled by the government army. A large number of Xia country compatriots have been waiting for a long time. As soon as the destroyer docked, everyone rushed forward impatiently. They have experienced war and don't want to stay here for a moment. They just want to board the warship as soon as possible. The soldiers on the warship hurried forward to maintain order and let the evacuees board the ship in an orderly manner. Looking at the powerful and majestic warship and the fully armed Daksha soldiers, everyone finally found a sense of security in their hearts. At this moment, the incomparable strength of the motherland is reflected. Comrade Lao Lang, we can only send you here. In the captain's room, Ho Yuan came to inform Su Wei. Okay, leave the rest to me. By the way, can you help me get a trolley? Su Wei didn't have much luggage, so he stood up and prepared to leave. The comrades at the embassy are ready. Ho Yuan immediately told Su Wei the address of the meeting. Hola, Su Wei nodded after hearing this. By the way, Comrade Lao Lang, we will stay here for a maximum of 72 hours. I hope you can come back as soon as possible, Ho Yuan said and stretched out his right hand. No matter who the other party is, they are all heroes going to the battlefield, and they are the kind of unknown heroes who cannot reveal their identities, which makes people even more respectful. Thank you, goodbye. Su Wei stretched out his hand and shook hands with Ho Yuan, then turned and left the captain's room. Ho Yuan walked quickly to the side of the ship and watched Su Wei appear on the deck, blending into the crowd of evacuees and disappearing in the blink of an eye. No one knew how he got off the ship, but it didn't cause any ripples. After getting off the ship, Su Wei pulled up the hood on his clothes and shuttled through the port dock. The people who were busy evacuating did not notice the existence of such a person at all. Following the route Ho Yuan told him, Su Wei came to an abandoned warehouse. A tough modified off-road vehicle was parked there, with a car key inserted on it, and some food and drinking water were thoughtfully stored in a trunk. Su Wei nodded with satisfaction, got in the car and started. The voice navigation was turned on, connected to the artificial intelligence on the bracelet, and immediately planned an optimal route with the cooperation of satellites from multiple countries. Boom! With the accelerator pressed to the bottom, the off-road vehicle suddenly rushed forward like a beast out of the cage. Chapter 202 Beheading. Su Wei drove forward and soon reached the exit. The government troops stationed there let the car pass directly when they saw it, which made Su Wei a little proud. Not far from the port, Su Wei witnessed the hideousness of war with his own eyes. There were collapsed houses everywhere, and in some places there were still raging fires. No one could be seen, only trauma and ruin. Fortunately, after the baptism of the wasteland world, Su Wei has become very immune to it. Driving alone on a road full of craters, he would not feel nervous. According to the navigation, the Xiazi factory that Su Wei was going to was about 600 kilometers away from the port. If everything went well, he could go back and forth in one day. However, he had to pass through 3 war zones during the period, so it would definitely not be peaceful all the way. No, after driving a few dozen kilometers, he met a team of soldiers wearing green military uniforms and red armbands. These people shot and stopped Su Wei's car. When he saw Su Wei, the leading soldier was stunned. Xia people, the leading soldier spoke in poor Daksha language. Yes, Su Wei nodded. The car is requisitioned, you, leave immediately. Seeing Su Wei admit it, the soldier directly raised his gun and motioned him to get out of the car. Why? Su Wei narrowed his eyes, and then got out of the car with a calm face. Because this is Manila, because we are the Red Sleeves Army, the leading soldier looked disdainful. What is there to be afraid of these Xia people who have lived in peace for a long time? When the gun is fired, they will be scared to pee their pants. What if I don't agree? Su Wei twisted his neck. Ho ha, is this guy a fool? Arrogant idiot. The soldiers around him laughed and said a lot of things in their language, but unfortunately Su Wei didn't understand a word. You can refuse, but I can't guarantee that you are alive, the leading soldier said with disdain. I can't guarantee that you're alive either, Su Wei teased, imitating the other's tone. Asshole, looking for death, the leading soldier was about to pull the trigger at Su Wei. But in a second, an iron hand grabbed his neck directly, and the huge force suffocated him instantly. It seemed that all the strength in his body was drained away, and it was a luxury to want to move a finger. The leading soldier was frightened with fear and regret in his eyes, but it was too late. Snap! Su Wei mercilessly broke his neck. He was willing to be a running dog of the Americans, and he didn't deserve sympathy. More importantly, he hated others pointing guns at him the most. Enemy. He is the enemy, kill him. The other dozen soldiers realized that something was wrong, and shouted in their language, raising their guns and shooting. Unfortunately, Su Wei was not afraid at all, and he also showed his unique skill of catching bullets with his bare hands. Devil, he is a devil. This unique skill scared these red-sleeve soldiers out of their wits, and some even dropped their guns and ran away. Su Wei didn't understand what they were shouting, but it didn't stop him from attacking. Baji shock. The soldiers gathered together were shaken to the ground, and before they could recover, Su Wei broke their throats. Bang, bang, bang. Su Wei picked up two AKs that were falling and fired a few shots. He didn't even need to aim deliberately to kill the fleeing soldiers, one shot at a time. And every shot hit their heads. 11 fully armed ordinary soldiers couldn't last more than 10 seconds in front of Su Wei. On average, each person took less than 1 second. Su Wei looked around the scene with an AK in each hand. After confirming that everyone was killed, he put away Posey. First, he looted all the weapons on these soldiers. Then Su Wei picked up people with similar figures and stripped them of their clothes, and turned on the scanning function of the magic to record the faces of several people. In this way, when necessary, he can disguise himself as a local. This is very nice. After finishing all this, Su Wei got on the car and drove away. According to his plan, he would first quietly pass through the war zone, reach the Xiaozi factory, and meet up with Feng Zuli and others. Then he would go to a slum not far away to meet the intelligence officer Su Jin. Therefore, Su Wei controlled the speed of the car and arrived at the first war zone when it was almost dark. He drove the car off the road and hid in a small forest. Su Wei got out of the car, changed into a green military uniform, put on a red armband, and then activated the illusion to change his face. This face was randomly combined with several faces scanned before. It seemed to be true or false, and even if he met an acquaintance, he would not recognize it. After doing all this, Su Wei activated a grip of death again. It didn't even emit light at night, and it was the kind that you couldn't find if you turned off the lights. During the day, Su Wei used artificial intelligence to search for a long time before finding the language of Manenia. After downloading it, he could start real-time translation. Then put on a wireless Bluetooth headset, and you can understand what the other person is saying. As for the problem, just pretend to be dumb. Nice. After looking in the rearview mirror and finding nothing wrong, he put the car into the space and sneaked towards the battle zone. The battle zone was relatively calm at night, and both sides restrained themselves from conflict. From a distance, you can see that both sides have lit bonfires. The difference is that the morale of the government army is low and the sky is full of worries. On the other hand, the morale of the Red Sleeves army is high, and they are happy. They even drink and celebrate, sing and dance, and it is so lively. One side represents the decline of the old forces, and the other side represents the rise of the new forces. Naturally, they are incomparable. Oh, are you so happy? You dare to interfere in the affairs of my great Xia country? Then I will make you happy. Su Wei looked at the camp of the Red Sleeves army through the telescope, and the corners of his mouth rose slightly, revealing his signature devil smile. Although the government army has little chance of winning, Su Wei still can't stand the Red Sleeves army. The reason is simple. No matter how the government army declines, it is still working hard to protect the compatriots of Great Xia. As soon as the Red Sleeves came up, they wanted to rob his car. This was absolutely intolerable. Putting away the binoculars, Su Wei quietly moved towards the Red Sleeves camp. The camp was brightly lit. The reason was simple, Manino had no air force. The few old planes dared not fly out at night for a fear of being lost. Hey, brother, have a sip. Just as Su Wei was about to go to the arsenal, a red-sleeved soldier suddenly appeared, leaving him no time to dodge. He forced a paper cup into his hand and then poured half a glass of wine. Su Wei took a closer look, and it turned out to be Guo Tao from Daxia. Su Wei opened his mouth wide and screamed. Tui, what bad luck, how come I met a mute? Get out of the way. The soldier was very annoyed and snatched the wine glass from Su Wei's hand. He wanted to find someone to chat with to kill the long night, but he didn't expect it to be a mute. What can a mute talk about? Su Wei took the opportunity to slip away. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 203 God Assists. The guards of the Red Sleeves army were quite lax. Perhaps they thought they were about to win a complete victory, so they all began to imagine their future rewards. When they saw Su Wei coming, they only took a second look. As long as they wore red armbands, they would be considered as silver. This saved Su Wei a lot of trouble. Pretending to pass by, when the figures crossed, Su Wei immediately rushed forward, one in each hand, and instantly crushed the throats of the two guards. Then the bodies disappeared. It is really a must-have artifact for murder, robbery, and sneak attacks. After doing all this, Su Wei walked into the armory fearlessly. I saw that the arms were placed in a mess in the tent, which shows how amateur the Red Sleeves army is. The reason why they were able to win was entirely due to their desire for money and power. And all of this is closely related to the financial backers behind the scenes. Good stuff. Su Wei's sight was attracted by a powerful anti-material sniper rifle. Isn't this a Barrett? Take it. Su Wei immediately stepped forward, put it into the space, and took away all the bullets. Then, he found some high-explosive grenades and set up a simple time delay mechanism. After doing this, Su Wei left quietly. By the way, before leaving, he went to the camp's fuel depot for a look. To put it bluntly, there were several tank trucks full of fuel. He used the same trick again and set up several time delay explosion mechanisms. In vain, Su Wei waved at the Red Sleeves who were still chatting and laughing, and then disappeared into the dark night. Boom boom boom. A few minutes later, two shocking flames shot up into the sky, illuminating the surroundings as bright as day. The Red Sleeves were immediately blown to pieces. Although the explosion was not large and the casualties were limited. But since its establishment, the Red Sleeves have never encountered such a change. Many people were confused and didn't know whether to search for the enemy first or to put out the fire quickly. But looking at the fire, it can't be put out. Especially the oil tankers, the oil splashed out after the explosion ignited more things. Bang, bang, bang. At this moment, there was a burst of gunfire. The government army suddenly rushed over and fired at the panicked Red Sleeves army. The Red Sleeves army fell down one after another like headless flies, and the scene became more chaotic. Su Wei, who was far away, heard the dense gunfire and took out the telescope to watch for a while. He found that the government army seized the opportunity and attacked the Red Sleeves army camp in one fell swoop. The battle that lasted for several days ended with the victory of the least favored government army. There are ruthless people in the government army on the opposite side, however, this is all I can help. It depends on you in the future. Su Wei put away the telescope and said to himself. Then, he took a big step and ran forward. His speed of running at full speed was not inferior to that of the vehicle, and there was no sound, so he could hide himself better in the night. Afterwards, Su Wei did the same thing, sending all the arsenals and fuel depots in the 2nd and 3rd battle zones and the Red Sleeves army camp to the sky. Unfortunately, the leaders of the government forces in the latter two battle zones did not have the courage of the first one, and watched the Red Sleeves army in chaos without daring to attack. A great opportunity was wasted in vain. During this period, Su Wei put away the guns he liked in his space, and unknowingly, he had already built a small arsenal. When the first ray of sunlight in the morning shone on Menenia, a dark red modified off-road vehicle was running fast on the road in the wilderness. Yes, it was Su Wei who had been sleepless all night. However, at this time, he had taken off his green military uniform and restored his appearance as an old wolf. Soon, a factory built in the embrace of 3 mountains came into view. It was the place where Feng Zuli and others took refuge, a Xia-funded factory called Longji. Bang! Just as Su Wei approached the factory gate, a gunshot stopped him. Cars were parked in front of the factory gate in a mess, like a roadblock. Su Wei slowly opened the car door and got out empty-handed. It was quiet all around, No one could be seen, but Su Wei could feel that many guns were pointed at him. Fengzuli, Fengzuli, Su Wei could only shout loudly, but deliberately thickened his voice to make himself look more old-fashioned. Squeak. The loudspeaker exploded, and then a man's voice came out from inside to ask, "Who are you, Fengzuli? Director Su sent me." Su Wei did not answer, but continued to shout. "Director Su." There was a burst of noise from the radio, and Su Wei could tell that it was Fengzuli's voice, and his worry was finally put down. Click. The radio was turned off. The surroundings returned to silence. Su Wei did not shout again, just waiting. As expected, after a while, the small door on the factory gate was opened from the inside, and a team of men in security uniforms filed out. Each of them held an AK in his hand, and after running to the designated position, they stopped and looked at Su Wei nervously. They are all native residents of Manania, but in order to protect their jobs, they have to take up arms and become temporary fighters. Because now Manania is not only armed with a government army and the Red Sleeve Army. There are also many organizations that fish in troubled waters, and even foreign mercenaries. If you are robbed at this time, there will be no police to punish the crime, and you can only save yourself. After confirming safety, several Xia people came out of the small door, and Fengzuli was among them. She wore a white tight-fitting t-shirt on the upper body, a pair of blue slim jeans on the lower body, and a pair of black British-style thick-soled leather boots on her feet, showing the unique charm of a mature woman. Next to her was not an employee of Ziwei Company, but a tall man in his 20s. He was wearing a jungle camouflage training uniform, a gun bag on his waist, and combat boots on his feet. He held a golden AK in his hand, and a dog-leg knife was stuck on the side of his thigh. "Friend, why don't you even have a name?" The man looked at Su Wei with a vigilant face and asked. "Others call me Liao Lang," Su Wei said in a rough voice. At the same time, he looked at Fengzuli on the side. The latter was also looking at him suspiciously. "Old Wolf? Damn, what kind of name is that? Friend, show some sincerity, otherwise how can we believe you?" The man was immediately unhappy. "I don't need you to believe it, as long as she believes it." Su Wei didn't even look at him and said to Fengzuli. "You?" The man's face turned black with anger. "Wait, how do you prove that you were sent by Director Su?" Unexpectedly, the small table behind Fengzuli came up with a great assist. Yes, 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 how do you prove it?" The man immediately became arrogant again, looking at Su Wei with a questioning look. Su Wei was dumbfounded on the spot. This guy must have taken the wrong script. However, it was indeed not said that someone would be sent at that time. The name Old Wolf was also decided by Su Wei on a whim. At that time, the satellite phone here had been disconnected. Fengzuli and the others naturally didn't know that there was a person named Old Wolf. Chapter 204. Want to get a free ticket? What, you have nothing to say? I think you are not a good person. You must want to take advantage of the situation. I warn you, leave quickly. The weapons in our hands are not fire sticks. The man saw Su Wei stunned, and suddenly became more excited, raising the AK in his hand and shouting. This is a great opportunity to show his heroism. Su Wei continued to remain silent. It was not that he didn't want to talk, but he couldn't think of anything to convince Fengzuli and others for a while. Haha, Miss Feng, you see, I said there was something wrong with this person, now it's exposed, the man said to Fengzuli with a smug look. Fengzuli didn't say anything, but kept looking at Su Wei's body, as if she wanted to see through him. Why don't you get out quickly, otherwise, I won't be polite. The man saw that Fengzuli didn't answer, and suddenly felt bored, turned around and shouted at Su Wei. You can use the satellite phone to contact Xia Wei, and you will know whether it is true or not. Su Wei had no choice but to say this. The signal here has been interrupted for a long time. You said that on purpose. Leave immediately, otherwise you will bear the consequences. Listen to my command, get ready. The man was still arguing with Su Wei, holding up the AK in his hand and making a shooting motion, and the security personnel also aimed at Su Wei. Wait, I believe him. At this moment, Fengzuli suddenly shouted loudly. The man's face turned green as if a fishbone was stuck in his throat. Sister Li. The small table was even more surprised. Su Wei was also stunned. He didn't know whether to say that this girl was courageous or stupid. However, at least he didn't have to worry about it anymore, which was good. Su Wei showed a bright smile on his face. Manager Feng, if that's the case, then follow me now. I'll take you to Nanming Port. There are warships of the Great Xia Kingdom there, which can send you back to China. Su Wei said this deliberately. Humph, kid, you want to pick up girls, I won't let you do what you want, I'll make you angry to death. Oh, don't. You have to prepare well anyway, right? The man suddenly changed his tone. After this separation, it is unknown when we will meet again. Forget it, you don't trust me, why do you stay? Are you suspected, Manager Feng? Let's go. Su Wei said this again. This made the man scratch his head anxiously, but he had a helpless expression. Old wolf, one of us is injured. Feng Zuli looked at Su Wei with embarrassment and said. Huh, is it serious? Su Wei frowned slightly when he heard it. Yeah, Feng Zuli nodded. Let's go, take me to see, Su Wei said hurriedly. Human life is at stake, so there is no time to argue with that guy. Yes, saving people is important, saving people is important. The man was immediately happy. Why did he forget about the injured? It must be difficult to travel with injured people, right? They have to rest for 10 days or half a month. As he spoke, the man led the way in front. As for the off-road vehicle driven by Su Wei, someone would naturally move it into the factory area. The wounded that Feng Zuli mentioned were placed in the conference room of the office building. A rectangular conference table covered with cotton wool was a simple hospital bed. At this time, a pale woman was lying on it, already in a coma. The bandage on her chest was still oozing with blood. Is she an employee of the company? When Su Wei saw that face, his expression suddenly became wonderful. It takes no effort to find someone after searching everywhere. Isn't this Su Jin? No, her name is Su Jin. I met her on the way to escape. If it weren't for her, we might not have gotten here, Feng Zuli said with a sad face. When the war broke out, many people went crazy and burned, killed and looted everywhere. On the way to escape, they encountered a group of armed elements who were taking advantage of the situation and slaughtered many refugees. They even wanted to capture Feng Zuli and others to sell them. Su Jin was among them, and couldn't bear to watch, so she started fighting with the militants. She was really good, and she killed several people on the other side as soon as she went up. Unfortunately, the other side had a large number of people, and there were many masters, and she was seriously injured in the end. Fortunately, a government army passed by, and the two sides fought, so they had a chance to escape. How did she get injured? Su Wei asked after listening to Feng Zuli's story. Gunshot wound, shot by a militant's pistol. Has the bullet been taken out? No, there is no doctor here, and there are not enough medicines. Okay, I know. You go out first. Su Wei nodded and said to the others. What are you going to do? The man jumped out again to make his presence felt. By the way, who are you? Su Wei had to look at this guy for the first time. He is the director of this factory, Chu Haoyan, Feng Zuli hurriedly introduced, fearing that the two would start fighting again. You? Director? Su Wei couldn't help but be shocked. This guy doesn't look like a factory director at all. If you don't know, you would think he is taking a general exam? Longji is his father's business, he is here to help manage it, Feng Zuli continued to explain. Oh, I see, Su Wei nodded, and then he understood. It is probably because this kid is too naughty that he was sent here by his family. Humph, my dream is to have wars and iron horses, it's too peaceful in China, even hunting is not fun, it's not as comfortable as here, there are elephants, lions, tigers and wolves. Look, that's my masterpiece. Chu Haoyan saw Su Wei's expression and was immediately unhappy. He pointed to a corner of the conference room and saw a mighty hungry wolf specimen and said, Okay, you are awesome, but please leave now, I have to save people. Su Wei flattered perfunctorily. He has seen giant tigers several meters high, so why would he care about this dull husky? You can save people if you want, why are you chasing them away? Chu Haoyan said unconvinced. Did you see where you were injured, or do you want to stay and get something for free? Su Wei looked like he doubted you. Swish. Everyone's eyes couldn't help but turn to Chu Haoyan. Tui. Who got it for free? Who got it for free? You are slandering me. Chu Haoyan's face turned red, especially under Feng Zuli's gaze. He felt like he couldn't defend himself. I'm just asking casually, why are you blushing? Did I hit the nail on the head? Su Wei suddenly found that this rich second generation was a little special, and it was fun to tease him. Chu Haoyan was so angry that he was speechless. Okay, let's go out first, don't delay saving people, Feng Zuli said hurriedly. Humph, for Miss Feng's sake, let's forget it this time. Chu Haoyan immediately jumped down the stairs. As they said that, everyone was ready to leave. Manager Feng, you stay, I need a helper, Su Wei suddenly said again. You what? You want to stay too? Chu Haoyan just opened his mouth and was retorted by Su Wei. HMPH, as if he was afraid that Su Wei would say he was getting it for free, Chu Haoyan walked out angrily. Chapter 205, Banny Road. Soon, only Su Wei and Feng Zuli were left in the conference room. Old wolf, can I do this? I'm afraid of seeing blood, Feng Zuli asked timidly. It's okay, just help me put on and take off the clothes. Su Wei shook his head nonchalantly, reached into his arms, and took out the necessary instruments one by one. In the wasteland world, getting injured is commonplace, so almost everyone knows how to treat wounds. Su Wei also went to learn it and prepared a set of instruments for himself. Watching Su Wei take things out one by one, Feng Zuli was stunned. What brand of clothes can hold so much? If Su Wei could read minds, he would definitely say, brand, Benelux. Alloy scalpel, alloy tweezers and a bottle of alcohol, this one comes from the modern world. Finally, Su Wei took out a light green healing potion and a golden life potion. Okay, let's get started. After Su Wei was ready, he said to Feng Zuli. Oh what? Feng Zuli, whose soul was wandering in the sky, was at a loss and looked at Su Wei with a blank face. Take off your clothes and untie the bandages, Su Wei urged. Oh, okay, Feng Zuli carried out Su Wei's order somewhat mechanically. With a rustle, a piece of white was revealed. Well, not bad, this girl is real. She is pretty, but it's a pity that the bullet hole that is still bleeding destroys all the beauty. Fortunately, the bullet is still some distance away from the heart, otherwise it would not be so lucky. Su Wei used the 9th level enhanced endurance to keep himself calm, then approached the bullet hole and carefully cut the incision with a sterilized scalpel. The enhanced eyes quickly locked onto the bullet head stuck in the flesh and bones, clamped it with tweezers, and then gently pulled it. Puff. The bullet head was pulled out, but blood also gushed out like a spring. The unconscious woman couldn't help but groan in pain, and her slender eyebrows wrinkled together, obviously enduring great pain. Feng Zuli, who was standing by, was so frightened that she screamed. Don't panic, take some medicine, Su Wei said to himself. He threw the tweezers and the bullet head with a ding-dong sound, and then picked up the healing potion and poured it into the woman's mouth. She raised her chin and swallowed the potion with a gulp. Soon, the amount of blood in the wound slowly decreased until it stopped, but the face became a little paler. Feng Zuli was stunned. This was simply a magical skill. Su Wei then poured the life potion into the woman. A few minutes later, Su Jin's originally pale face began to turn red, and the whiteness was rosy, radiating a bit of charm. Even the frowned eyebrows slowly relaxed, revealing a comfortable expression. Su Wei still felt uneasy, so he took out another golden wound aerosol and sprayed it on the wound. As for scar removal, it would have to wait until later. Okay, you can get dressed. After doing this, Su Wei said to Feng Zuli. It would be a lie to say that I wasn't nervous when I was doing surgery on someone for the first time. Although it was just a few simple movements, Su Wei was sweating a little. Oh, Feng Zuli felt a little numb in her brain, and hurriedly put Su Jin's clothes back on. Okay, you stay here and wait for her to wake up and we'll go, Su Wei said and walked outside. If not now, when? Hey, Lao Lang, where are you going? Feng Zuli couldn't help asking. To sleep. I drove a day and a night to find you, I'm so tired. Su Wei pretended to complain and walked towards the office area outside. I was really tired, not guilty. Yes, I was not guilty. For some reason, Feng Zuli's big eyes actually bloomed with a glimmer of light. Is it done so quickly? Chu Haoyan had an inexplicable hostility towards Su Wei, and asked sarcastically when he saw him come out. Of course, with Manager Feng's help, it's hard not to be fast, Su Wei said with a wicked smile. You? Chu Haoyan suddenly felt like he was shooting himself in the foot. After Su Wei glanced at him, he sat down on a chair beside him and closed his eyes to take a nap. The people in the room looked at Su Wei, who did what he wanted, and suddenly felt that he was unfathomable. This is a master. The air suddenly became very quiet. One could even hear Su Wei snoring. He actually fell asleep. Chu Haoyan couldn't help but touch the desert eagle on his waist, but eventually let go. Feng Zuli didn't come out, so Chu Haoyan just waited. While he waited, no one else said anything. Time passed by minute, and more than an hour passed in the blink of an eye. Creak. When everyone was drowsy under the influence of Sui, the door of the conference room was opened from the inside. Feng Zuli helped Su Jin out together. Everyone couldn't help but raise their hands and rub their eyes, thinking they were hallucinating. A seriously injured and dying person, after being treated by Lao Lang, can get out of bed and walk after an hour. This is unscientific. But the facts were right in front of him, and Rong had to believe it. What was even more exaggerated was that Su Jin refused Feng Zuli's help, walked to Su Wei and bowed deeply. "Thank you for saving my life." Su Jin's voice was mature and slightly hoarse, with unique charm. "You're welcome, we're all family members." The moment the door opened, Su Wei woke up, and seeing Su Jin's deep bow, he immediately stood up and stepped aside. "Also, don't bow like that next time, it's like you're sending me off." Then Su Wei couldn't help but complain. Puff. Feng Zuli couldn't help laughing out loud, and quickly covered her mouth with her hands, with a seductive gesture. Chu Haoan looked like a pig. "Sorry, I didn't mean that." Su Jin felt something was wrong, and quickly apologized. She didn't care about what Su Wei said about his family members, and obviously understood it as the meaning of being a fellow countryman in Daksha. Su Wei was speechless for a while. When he just said his family members, he hinted with his eyes. Was it because his acting skills were not good enough? Impossible, this woman must have fallen asleep. "Well, let me check your wound again to avoid any accidents." Su Wei suddenly changed the subject. Thank you for your help." Su Jin was obviously stunned, but seeing that Su Wei was not joking, she nodded. As they talked, the two walked towards the conference room one after the other. "Damn, this is also possible?" Chu Haoan was immediately shocked. It was the first time he discovered that studying medicine actually had such a unique advantage. He regretted not studying medicine in the first place. Manager Feng, you don't have to bother me this time, I can do it myself." Just when Feng Zuli wanted to follow in, Su Wei spoke again. Su Jin's face turned red for no reason, but she didn't say anything. "Oh, okay then." Feng Zuli's face clearly had a look of loss. Damn, beast. Let go of that girl. Let me do it." Chu Haoan, who was standing aside, couldn't help but complain crazily in his heart. Chapter 206. 3 Guns Teach You How to Be a Man. Su Wei didn't care about the questioning eyes of others. He took Su Jin back to the meeting room and locked the door from the inside. This action made the faces of people inside and outside the room more expressive. "Old wolf, he is really an old wolf. Come on, sit down." Su Wei found a chair and sat down. Coincidentally, there was also a chair opposite. Su Jin couldn't help frowning slightly, but still forced herself to sit over. "Ahem, old 8 said that there is no money at home." Su Wei pretended to be deep. But just this one sentence made Su Jin freeze, and she even forgot to put down her hands that were raised to unbutton her clothes. Hey, don't be stupid, talk," Su Wei said speechlessly. "We are making a connection. Do you know how to make a connection? Can you be more professional? Didn't you just remit money 2 days ago?" Su Jin suddenly realized and quickly replied. "I forgot the password and can't withdraw it," Su Wei said seriously. "The password is my mother's birthday," Su Jin continued. 681,017. After Su Wei said this string of numbers, their identities were confirmed. It should be very professional in imagination, but why does it feel a bit silly in reality? Su Wei didn't find the tense and exciting atmosphere at all. "Comrade Lao Lang, hello." At this moment, Su Jin's grudges were all gone, and a joyful smile appeared on her slightly pale face, and she stretched out her right hand to Su Wei. "Comrade Su Jin, hello, why are you here? Didn't we agree to meet in the slums? If I hadn't come here to meet you, I'm afraid I would have missed it." After the two shook hands, Su Wei asked hurriedly. "No, I have handed over the information to someone else for safekeeping. As long as someone goes to meet, we can get the information. I have been exposed, and staying there will only increase casualties. It's better to wander around and attract the other party's attention. I just didn't expect that I would be brought here and meet you by chance." Su Jin smiled bitterly and shook her head. Originally, she was ready to sacrifice herself to confuse the enemy so that the information could be brought out of Meninia more smoothly. But the plot didn't go as she had imagined. After a long turn, it returned to the original point. "According to what you said, we have to go back to the slums again." Su Wei's heart suddenly sank. He thought it was easy, but he didn't expect that everything he had to do would be necessary. "No, it's you, Someone is chasing me, so it will be safer if we go separately, Su Jin shook her head and said. She still insisted on acting according to her own script. Bang! Bang! At this moment, 2 gunshots broke the original silence, and the factory area was instantly in turmoil. I'm afraid it's not up to you, Su Wei quickly flashed to the window, from where he could see a group of white soldiers in camouflage combat uniforms breaking out from outside the factory. The factory's security personnel were no match for them at all, and most of them were killed as soon as they met. It's a mercenary, Lucifer, Su Jin also followed, and her face changed color when she saw the soldier's attire. The one chasing you? Su Wei asked. Yes, that's them, Su Jin nodded, hatred in her eyes. Dong, dong, dong. There was a rapid knock on the door. Old wolf, old wolf. Something happened, Feng Zuli's voice shouted outside the door. Let's go, Su Wei took Su Jin to open the door. Except for Feng Zuli, everyone else squatted in the corner with their heads in their hands, looking panicked. Old wolf, there are so many mercenaries coming, killing anyone they see. What should we do? Feng Zuli asked nervously when she saw Su Wei coming out. At this moment, Chu Haoan was no longer there. When he heard the gunshots, he ran out alone. Old wolf, you take them from the back, I'll go to the front to lead them away, Su Jin said and was about to rush out. Although she had just recovered from a serious injury, the power of the life potion made her have the strength to fight. Why are you showing off? With me here, it's not a problem, Su Wei grabbed Su Jin and said. You? Su Jin looked at Su Wei in astonishment. The other party is the famous mercenary Lucifer, who has made great achievements since his debut. Especially their leader Jack, who is rumored to be a senior biochemical soldier with terrifying strength. Don't worry. Take care of them, I'll go out and take a look, Su Wei handed Feng Zuli and others to Su Jin, and then ran downstairs alone. Bang bang bang. Outside the office building, there is the battlefield. The roadblocks and guards outside the factory are useless. The other party broke through here without any damage. Fortunately, Chu Haoyan and his men used sandbags to pile up a trench in front of the office building as the last line of defense of the factory. Now while the armed security personnel have withdrawn here, relying on powerful firepower to temporarily suppress the enemy's attack. Hold on, hold on. Hold on for me, Chu Haoyan was so angry that his face turned red, and he fired wildly with a golden AK, but unfortunately all the bullets hit the sky, wasting bullets in vain. Those Menenia security personnel were panicked, and it was good enough that they could shoot, not to mention the accuracy. However, among these people, there were 3 middle-aged men from Xia country who caught Su Wei's attention. Their shooting movements were orderly, and the 3 of them took turns to form crossfire, posing a great threat to the other side. It can be said that it was because of these 3 people that the other side was suppressed. The others were just making up the numbers. Okay, save some bullets. That's not how you shoot a gun. Su Wei stepped forward and grabbed Chu Haoan's gold AK and said casually. Damn, don't be so stupid, if you have the ability, try to shoot one. Chu Haoan was very angry now. The other side had 7 or 8 people, and they killed here without any harm, and the key was that it took less than 10 minutes. This made Chu Haoan feel extremely humiliated. Those fortifications at the door, which he thought were impregnable, were actually useless. Watch it, Su Wei said nothing and snatched the gold AK from Chu Haoan's hand. The strength was so great that he couldn't resist it at all. You will bang bang bang. Without waiting for Chu Haoan to start, Su Wei fired decisively. 3 bullets hit the same position, shattering 2 layers of windshield and directly shooting the mercenary hiding behind a car in the head. What's more horrifying is that the other party just leaned out to observe the field of vision, and in such a short time, he was locked, shot, and shot on the HUD by Su Wei. Damn Caouyeye dia oa immortal ban yo. Chu Haoan was directly scared silly. An expert can tell the difference as soon as he makes a move. The people on the opposite side were also scared and quickly retreated, hiding behind thick bunkers, fearing that they would follow the footsteps of that unlucky guy. The gunshots here gradually stopped, and everyone couldn't help but look back. I thought Chu Haoan was possessed by the sniper god, but I didn't expect to see the stranger who came in the morning, putting down the golden AK in his hand. Damn. This is a master. The 3 middle-aged men also cast admiring eyes on Su Wei. Upstairs, Su Jin and others happened to see this scene and were immediately shocked. Lao Lang, what does he do? Su Jin swallowed hard and then asked Feng Zuli beside her. I don't know either. Feng Zuli shook her head, her eyes filled with confusion, surprise, shock and many other complex emotions. Chapter 207. Don't come over here. Master, please accept my knees. On this side, Chu Haoyan knelt without hesitation. Damn, what are you doing? Get up quickly. Su Wei was shocked. First he was bowed to deeply, and now he was kneeling again. This really seemed like he was going to be sent away. Master, please accept me as your disciple. I want to learn how to shoot a gun from you. Chu Haoyan remained unmoved and continued to kneel on the ground. No, you should get up first. Su Wei looked at a loss whether to laugh or cry. How could this be popular these days? No, if you don't agree, I won't get up, Chu Haoyan said stubbornly. The move Su Wei showed just now had completely conquered him. Okay, I agree. You can get up now, right? Su Wei had no choice but to nod and agree. Otherwise, who knows what this clown will do. Really, great, Master, please accept your disciple's worship, Chu Haoyan said as he prepared to prostrate himself in worship. Okay, if you don't get up, I'll regret it. Su Wei almost couldn't help but kick him with his big feet. You gave me face, right? Why is there so much drama? Get up. Fearing that Su Wei would regret it, Chu Haoyan immediately jumped up from the ground. That speed was as fast as lightning. Congratulations, Mr. Chu. Seeing that the other party stopped attacking, the three middle-aged men also moved over to join in the fun. Heroes. There will always be sympathy for each other. I don't know what Chu Haoyan thought of, and he laughed extremely obscenely. How many of you are veterans? Su Wei asked the three people. Well, the three of us are veterans of the former Zilan military region. My name is Dong Zhao, and now I am the security captain of Longji Factory. They are Ma Qiang and Hong Danyu, who are deputy captains. I don't know what to call you, brothers. The man who looked the oldest introduced himself. Old Wolf, not on the establishment, Su Wei said, extending his hand and shaking hands with the three people. I understand, Dong Zhao and the other two nodded with envy after hearing this. The organization and numbers of many troops in Daksha are kept secret. Only in those places can such great people appear. It is the same in other countries. Old Wolf, what should we do now? Dong Zhao asked Su Wei with a humble face. The other party is the internationally famous mercenary Lucifer, experienced and well-equipped. With just the four of us, I'm afraid, Ma Qiang said solemnly. After years of being here, they are quite familiar with these mercenary organizations. What are you talking about, old Ma? Why are there only four? Am I not a human? Besides, my master is so powerful, I'm afraid of nothing. Who cares about Lucifer or Lu Dongfa? He will become a passerby in seconds. Chu Haoyan was immediately unhappy when he heard it, and quickly stood up and refuted. Not good. Su Wei suddenly pulled Chu Haoyan back. Bang! At this time, a special gunshot suddenly rang out. Puff! Almost at the same time, a finger-sized hole appeared on the ground where Chu Haoyan had just stood. It turned out that this guy got excited and stood up, exposing himself to the sniper's view. Fuck, you dare to snipe me? Wait for me. Chu Haoyan was not scared at all, but was angry and wanted to stand up to snipe. It seemed that he became more powerful after worshipping Su Wei as his master. Shut up, you have no right to speak here, Su Wei said with a fierce face. I feel more and more that this kid is a bit stupid. Yes, master, you are right. Chu Haoyan immediately smiled at Su Wei. Okay, call me Lao Lang from now on, master. I don't plan to go to the west to obtain scriptures. Su Wei really wanted to hide him twice. Yes, master, Brother Wolf. Brother Wolf, call me Brother Wolf. Chu Haoyan immediately climbed up the pole, and the flattering look made Dong Zhao and the other two feel annoyed. But if they could learn Su Wei's amazing shooting skills, they would also be willing to do so. Oh, old wolf, how should we fight this war? Hong Danyu, who had been silent all this time, could not help but ask. Since ancient times, there is no first in literature and no second in martial arts. Since we have met, we have to distinguish who is better. How to fight? Just fight, Su Wei said with a relaxed look. For him, this is all a small scene. The three were confused. Do you have a sniper rifle? Su Wei did not explain much and turned to Chu Haoyan. I really don't have this. Chu Haoyan shook his head regretfully. Sniper rifles are not something that ordinary people can control, so they are not prepared. Who the hell could have thought that a war would suddenly break out? Forget it, lend me your pistol. Su Wei originally wanted to take out the Barrett, but after thinking about it, he gave up and pointed at the Desert Eagle on Chu Haoyan's waist and said, "Here, Brother Wolf, consider it as your disciple's gift to you." Chu Haoyan took out the Desert Eagle without saying a word and handed it to Su Wei. "Okay, it's enough." After Su Wei waited, he knew that the magazine was full, so he stopped Chu Haoyan from taking the spare magazine. "Pay attention to the target." Su Wei threw a word to Dong Zhao and the other two, and then he jumped out of the sandbag trench and launched a snake-like charge towards the position of the sniper. Oh my god, what a fierce man. Su Wei's actions once again refreshed everyone's cognition. Knowing that the other side had a sniper, he actually rushed out. You know, there is an open space in front, with no obstruction. Bang! After a brief hesitation, the other sniper decisively fired. Everyone was so scared that they dared not blink. Almost at the same time as the gunshot, Su Wei changed his body shape and used his reaction ability that ordinary people could not match to dodge the sniper's bullet in time. This time the sniper was just an ordinary person, not as powerful as the last Hawkeye. After the enhancement, Su Wei's perception was different from that of ordinary people, and with the freedom of body control, it was very easy for him to dodge. Fuck, the opponent's sniper couldn't help but curse. But at this time, he just thought it was a coincidence and continued to lock on Su Wei's direction. But then, Su Wei's performance directly made the sniper collapse. In almost every shot, Su Wei used the bullet's flight time of a few tenths of a second to dodge. In other words, no matter how accurate your aim is, it's useless, and it's useless to predict the position. The bullet's flight time is enough for Su Wei to respond calmly. The people watching the game were so shocked that there was such a way of fighting. Don't come over. The sniper's almost desperate voice resounded in Lucifer's communication channel. The gunfire never stopped, but not a single shot hit, which was a great shame for a sniper. Stop him. A low and hoarse voice sounded in the communication channel. All the members of Lucifer knew that it was the voice of the boss Jack. So the team members rushed out from behind the bunkers and shot at Su Wei. Here comes the chance, Lao Ma, Dainyu, show these bastards that we old soldiers never die. Dong Zhao's blood was boiling, and when he saw the other party's figure, he immediately raised his gun and shot. Old soldiers never die. Ma Qiang and Hong Dainyu followed suit. Bang bang bang. Chapter 208 10-Second Man. A fierce gunfight broke out again. With Su Wei as bait, mercenaries kept popping up, and Dong Zhao and his men killed 3 of them in a row. On the other hand, in the hail of bullets, Su Wei's bullets seemed to have eyes and all avoided him. Whenever there was a mercenary chasing him, the Desert Eagle in Su Wei's hand would shoot him in the head in the most direct and brutal way, sending him to see God. Finally, after killing 2 mercenaries who came to intercept, Su Wei successfully rushed to the opponent's sniper. At this time, the sniper had fallen into madness. Seeing Su Wei rushing up, he directly threw away the sniper rifle in his hand, pulled out his pistol and shot at Su Wei. Bang bang bang. Unfortunately, his speed could never keep up with Su Wei's speed, so every shot of the pistol missed. Click. Soon, a magazine was emptied. The Desert Eagle in Su Wei's hand also hit his forehead. Fuck, shit, the sniper stared at Su Wei with red eyes, as if he wanted to tear him to pieces. Bang. Su Wei pulled the trigger without hesitation. The power of the large caliber pistol was abnormal, and the sniper's head suddenly exploded like a watermelon. Whoosh. At the same time, a machete flew towards this site at high speed, with such great force that one could even hear the sound of the air tearing. Bang bang. Su Wei turned quickly and fired 2 shots in a row, each of which hit the target. The bullet and the machete collided in the air, creating 2 sparks. Although the machete failed to be shot down, it changed its flight trajectory and pierced into the concrete pillar next to Su Wei with a click, up to the handle. Good marksmanship. Following the voice, a tall white man walked out of the shadows. He was wearing camouflage combat uniforms and a black bulletproof vest. He had a black, breathing mask-like device on his mouth and nose, covering the lower half of his face. A thick black tube was connected to a metal box on his waist. His voice was hazy, but he spoke Daxia fluently. "You are Jack." Su Wei remembered the information provided by Su Jin, and asked curiously. "Do you know me?" Jack asked in surprise. "No." Su Wei shook his head bluntly. The Desert Eagle without bullets spun like a top in his hand. "No, I'm just playing." Cap cap, Jack almost couldn't breathe. You don't know me, but you act like you know me well. I advise you not to get involved in this mess. Jack suppressed his anger and said coldly. I don't want to, but my friends are in there, so I can't just watch you killing people at will, Su Wei said casually. HMPH, then go and die? Jack rushed forward with a muffled roar, and his speed was 2 or 3 times that of an ordinary person. Interesting, Su Wei looked excited. An advanced biochemical soldier. How strong is he? He immediately thought of giving it a try. So, he put away the desert eagle and went up with his bare hands. Hammer. Bang. The 2 fists collided with each other, and suddenly there was a heavy muffled sound like 2 trucks colliding. Su Wei stood still, and Jack slid back more than 10 meters, his back against a concrete wall, and it cracked immediately. One punch made the difference. Su Wei looked at Jack, who was stunned, and shook his head in disappointment. In terms of strength, it was similar to the level of a 6th or 7th level enhancer, which was equivalent to the gold level. If this was considered an advanced biochemical soldier, then the American skills were not that good. You will pay a heavy price for this. The stinging pain in his arm, coupled with Su Wei's ridicule, made Jack angry instantly. He reached out and pressed the metal box on his waist. A small display screen lit up on it, showing a countdown of 10. Roar. Almost instantly, Jack's eyes turned red, and black stripes appeared on his white face. Is he going to go all out? Feeling the opponent's power surge, Su Wei watched with interest. However, looking at those disgusting black spots, Su Wei still activated a death grip. What if it's poisonous? Is it? He must not give his opponent any chance to turn the tables. It only took 2 seconds for Jack to complete the charge, and then shot at Su Wei like a cannonball. Cannon hammer. Su Wei stood still and swung his fist, relying entirely on the strength of his waist to exert the power of his fist to the extreme. Bang! The 2 fists collided, and the surrounding ground instantly sank more than 10 centimeters. Whoosh! The same result. Su Wei did not move, Jack returned the same way, and the wall behind him was directly knocked down, and a large human-shaped hole appeared. Roar! The difference is that Jack seems to be tireless and painless. He rushed up again as soon as he landed, and his speed was a little faster. Cannon hammer. Su Wei punched him as usual and sent him away. Jack landed and then bounced back. This was repeated 3 times. A lot of words, but it actually happened in an instant. Beep beep beep. Just when Jack was about to launch the 4th attack, a prompt sound came from the metal box on his waist. Buzz! The metal box vibrated slightly. Whoosh! 2 streams of white smoke were seen coming out from both sides of Jack's black mask. Jack stopped immediately in anger, the redness in his eyes faded, and the black stripes on his face disappeared, but his skin looked a little paler. What the hell? The ultimate move also has a break system? Su Wei felt eye-opening. After Jack used the ultimate move, his strength increased greatly, and he actually directly crossed a realm and reached the strength comparable to that of the early diamond. Unfortunately, the time was too short, and the fight was not satisfying. Hey, you're not a 10-second man, are you? If that's the case, you're going to die today, Su Wei ruthlessly mocked Jack, who was gradually calming down. Fuck, Jack was instantly furious. He reached out and pressed the metal box on his waist again, and the countdown appeared, and he instantly transformed. Unfortunately, the repetitive moves made Su Wei lose his patience. 8 Extreme shock. When Jack got close, Su Wei jumped up and punched the ground. The momentary dizziness made him lose the ability to attack. Cannon hammer. Su Wei punched Jack in the face, and the huge force caused his face to be severely deformed. The respirator he was wearing also fell off, revealing a mouth that seemed to have been torn. Oh my. What is a mouth that ruins everything? This is wow. Jack's outfit could be called cool before, but now, looking at that face again, it only makes you feel extremely disgusting. With red eyes and black stripes, he's as ugly as a demon. The mask fell off, and Jack turned from anger to shock. He didn't even care about attacking, and quickly reached out to grab the fallen respirator. Come on, hero, don't be cool, fight first. Su Wei would never let him do what he wanted. He attacked Jack one punch after another, making Jack exhausted. In the blink of an eye. 10 seconds passed. In the battle, Jack's strength soared a lot, and he even had a tendency to break through the diamond level and approach the king level. The powerful pressure came instantly, making Su Wei feel a little pressure. But there was no joy in Jack's eyes, but instead filled with endless fear. Chapter 209 Dismissal. Bang, bang, bang. The two punched each other like they were competing, and it seemed that sparks would be produced in the next second. It feels so good, Su Wei was feeling very satisfied. AWW. Jack, who was fighting, suddenly fell to the ground and wailed in pain. Fuck, this guy wants to scam me. Su Wei hurriedly took a step back. He hadn't even attacked the vital parts yet. Bang, bang, bang. Jack's body exploded several times, and he suddenly became a bloody mess. After a few breaths, Jack turned into a dead body that couldn't be deader. What does this mean? Commit suicide if you can't win. Is this the legendary, if you don't succeed, you will die? Su Wei muttered, and put Jack's body into the space, as well as the strange metal box. Something that can directly cross a major realm must be extraordinary, so it's just right to pick it up and let Lao Qin study it. Old Wolf. At this time, Dongjia rushed over with his men. In this battle, Longji won a great victory and killed 7 mercenaries of Lucifer. Old Wolf, have you seen Captain Jack? Hong Jianyu was shocked to see the mess around him. Well, I beat him away. Su Wei put his hands behind his back, looking calm and composed. Hiss. Awesome. Several people couldn't help but give him a thumbs up. Brother Wolf, Brother Wolf. Great victory, great victory. At this time, Chu Haoyan ran over, his face flushed with excitement. Although he had nothing to do with it, he still won, and under the leadership of his master, he achieved a brilliant record. Okay, stop making a fuss, I guess we can't stay here anymore. Su Wei didn't have much joy of victory. After all, the other party was just a mercenary leader, and he had only completed 1/3 of his mission. He still had to retrieve the intelligence and then escort a few people back to the country. Well, this Dong Zhao and the other two nodded in agreement after hearing this, but looked at Chu Haoyan with embarrassment. After all, he was the master here. Oh, look at me, Brother Wolf said I can't stay, so I can't stay, isn't that right, Brother Wolf? Where are we going next? Chu Haoyan said proudly. Don't you think it's a pity to throw away such a big factory? Su Wei couldn't help asking. Look at what Brother Wolf said, isn't it just a factory? If it wasn't for the old man's strong request, I wouldn't bother to take care of this broken factory. Now I have to learn to shoot with Brother Wolf. How can I have time to take care of these trivial things? It's just right to close it down, Chu Haoyan said indifferently. Awesome. Su Wei had to give him a thumbs up. No wonder he was exiled to the African savannah. It's okay to close it down, but the workers must be given severance pay, and the casualties must have sufficient pensions, Su Wei said to Chu Haoyan seriously. No matter where they are, the working people are the most respectable group of people. Brother Wolf, you can trust me to do the job, not to mention the factory workers. I've even paid for the resettlement of the refugees who have fled. Chu Haoyan patted his chest and promised. Awesome Crass. Su Wei had to give him another thumbs up. It would be better to have less contact with this money loser in the future. Brother Wolf, just wait and see. With that, Chu Haoyan ran to prepare to dismiss everyone. Dong Zhao and the other two hurriedly followed him. This young master didn't know that people's hearts were treacherous. If he took out a large amount of money at this time, something might go wrong. Fortunately, everything was normal and no accidents happened. I don't know if it's because of the simple folk customs, or because of the previous battle. The power of Old Wolf has been deeply rooted in the hearts of the people. After all, not everyone can face a sniper head-on and not die. At the same time, a piercing alarm sounded in an underground base thousands of miles away. Following the sound, a red box flashed on a large screen in the central control room, which clearly indicated Jack's information. A white soldier guard in the screen immediately ran out and found a middle-aged white man in combat uniform in a separate office. General, it's bad. Jack has lost his life information, the soldier reported to the middle-aged white man. Where is he located? The general frowned when he heard it. A Xiazi factory thousands of miles away, the soldier reported urgently. Immediately send the second and third teams to investigate. Make sure to recover the body. The general gave the order without any hesitation. Yes, General. The soldier immediately ran down to convey the order. Xiazi factory. The general called up the detailed information of Longji factory on the tablet, but it was ordinary and there was nothing unusual. It was just a war period, and any accidents could happen. 2 hours later, Su Wei and others, who had a full meal, were ready to set off. With him, there was no need to worry about the problem of supplies. For convenience, Su Wei stuffed the trunk full of food and water, as well as weapons and ammunition. Feng Zuli, Su Jin, a small table, a small chair, and a small stool, a total of 6 people were stuffed into an off-road vehicle. Fortunately, the girls were not fat and did not feel crowded. Brother Wolf, just as Su Wei started the car and prepared to leave, Chu Haoyan ran over. Why are you here instead of dealing with the factory's affairs? Su Wei looked at Chu Haoyan, who was lying on the car window, with a look of surprise. Brother, I've dealt with everything. I want to go with you, Chu Haoyan said with a sly smile. We have other things to deal with. We won't go to Nanming Port for the time being, it's not on the way, Su Wei refused directly. It doesn't matter if it's not on the way, where you go, we go. I have to learn how to shoot from you. Chu Haoyan was not annoyed, and he lay on the window and refused to let go. Following me will be life-threatening, are you sure you want to go too? Su Wei threatened. That's great, if I was scared to death, I wouldn't come here, brother, just take me with you, Chu Haoyan said, throwing a coquettish eye, frightening Su Wei so much that he trembled all over. It's not that I don't want to take you, but there's really no room, Su Wei directly passed the buck. It's okay, we have a car, Chu Haoyan immediately waved to the back. Dong Zhao and his 2 men drove up in a tough off-road vehicle and parked side by side with Su Wei's car. Okay, you're awesome, Su Wei nodded undeniably. 3 cars, supplies, fuel, weapons, all ready. Hey, wait a little longer, Chu Haoyan grabbed Su Wei again. What's wrong? Su Wei asked unhappily. It's not sure whether it's a blessing or a curse to bring such a wasteful thing. Brother, it'll be quick. As he said that, Chu Haoyan ran to the back row, took out a few bean-sized glass stones from his pocket, and stuffed them into the small table, stool, and chair. The 3 girls immediately ran out of Su Wei's car with joy on their faces and got into Dong Zhao's car next to them. Then, he ran to the passenger seat, took out a diamond and stuffed it into the indifferent Su Jin. The latter climbed to the back seat very tacitly and sat with Feng Zuli. Chu Haoyan then climbed to the passenger seat with satisfaction. Brother, let's go. What did you do just now? Su Wei was confused. Rough diamond, Chu Haoyan said indifferently. Damn, giving someone such a big rough diamond just to change a seat, what a waste. Let's go. Brother, Su Wei was stunned on the side, but Chu Haoyan couldn't wait to start his adventure. Get lost, come and drive. Su Wei's face sank and he gave up. You still want me to drive for you? What are you dreaming about? Haha, it's my duty. Chu Haoyan immediately trotted out of the car, walked around to the driver's seat, and exchanged seats with Su Wei. Boom boom boom. 4 tough off-road vehicles roared out of the factory gate and rushed towards the prairie in front of them. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 210 Incident. The climate in Africa is hot. Fortunately, the scenery is unique. You can see large wild animals such as lions, elephants, and buffaloes on the side of the road, which is full of natural wild charm. Unfortunately, the peaceful days on this land are too short. There's a war every now and then, which makes the people living here suffer from war. But even so, the people here are still very optimistic and live, and we have to cite the tenacious personality of human beings. After seeing the power of the old wolf, Su Jin no longer insisted on her plan and agreed to go together. First, go to a slum more than 100 kilometers away to retrieve the information, and then go directly to Nanming Port from there. Along the way, Chu Haoyan pestered Su Wei and asked how to shoot accurately. Su Wei said that learning to shoot a gun should start with shooting a pistol. So, the 2 big men began to discuss shooting a pistol in depth. More than 100 kilometers of road, walking and stopping, it took 3 or 4 hours. The main reason is that after driving 40 or 50 kilometers, they encountered multiple war zones. Although the armies of both sides had evacuated, they left behind a mess, and in many places even the roads were bombed to pieces. It took them a lot of time to clear the roadblocks and take detours. In the end, they had to streamline the vehicles. 2 were abandoned, and only 2 were on the road. Anyway, abandoned vehicles can be seen everywhere on the road, and another one can be found when needed. Finally, at dusk when the sun was setting, Su Wei and his men arrived at the town of Castanet Su Jin mentioned. This place was once occupied by the Red Sleeves army, but as the front line advanced southward, there were no garrisons here. Refugees from all around gradually gathered here, restoring some vitality to the town after the war. Under the guidance of Su Jin, the car drove to the central square of the town. This place was bombed to pieces, with broken bricks and rubble everywhere, and the refugees hid in the ruins where they could live. There were also some intact houses standing in the ruins, and even some shops that were open for business. These shops have their own weapons, and the things they sell are even more expensive, enough to squeeze every family that fled here. This is a microcosm of war. The car stopped at an open space. Refugees immediately swarmed in from all directions. Seeing Su Wei and others dressed in bright clothes, they stretched out their hands one after another, their hungry eyes emitting green light. "Old wolf, let's help them." Feng Zuli in the car looked at the hungry children and felt a little sorry for them. "No, don't," Su Wei hurriedly stopped them. "Why?" Feng Zuli couldn't help asking. "At this time, a little bit of food will cause a riot. By then, we won't be able to leave even if we want to." Su Wei saw it with his own eyes in the wasteland. Hunger can make people crazy. Okay, Feng Zuli chose to believe it. "Don't turn off the car, be smart." After Su Wei told Chu Haoan, he followed Su Jin out of the car. But many refugees had gathered outside the car, and the two had almost no way to go. Bang! Su Wei took out the Desert Eagle and fired a shot into the air. The tough attitude made the refugees retreat. Su Jin and Su Wei came to a shop selling iron tools on the street. Su Wei saw a joint mark in an inconspicuous position at the door of the shop. It was probably left by Su Jin herself. In this shop, the workshop and the shop are connected. When you enter the door, you can see many workers busy repairing machinery and equipment. Although the war did not destroy the shop, some people took the opportunity to destroy the equipment. "Is Gyuliza Yifyangi Mayola Sikhoeri here?" Su Jin asked in Manania when she met a heating supply. The way she said the name in one breath shocked Su Wei on the side. How did she do it? Gyuliza Yifyangi Mayola Sikhoeri is gone. Now his son-in-law Gyuliza Yifyangi Mayola Sikhoeri manages this place. Where is Gyuli? Su Jin asked in surprise. "He died. When he went out, unfortunately, a shell fell next to him," the worker said expressionlessly. "Too many people died here. After seeing so much, they became numb." May I ask wherein lies now?" Su Jin's face suddenly became bad, but she still held a glimmer of hope and asked. "In the director's office, the one where Guli used to be," the worker pointed inside. "Got it, thank you," Su Jin thanked him politely. The worker shook his head and left. "What's wrong?" Su Wei was listening to the real-time translation of the artificial intelligence, but still asked a question. "My client is dead. I don't know if he delivered the things to others." Su Jin looked annoyed. If the information was lost, she would not be able to apologize even if she died. Too many people have sacrificed for this information. "Let's go in and ask," Su Wei comforted. Now he can confirm that the language package searched by the artificial intelligence is valid. Yet, Su Jin didn't feel strange that Su Wei could understand Manania. She already regarded Su Wei as a person of the same kind as her, that is, an agent. The two walked through the corridor and came to an independent office. The door was gone. Inside, beside the messy desk and chair, sat a 30-year-old Manania man wearing a white shirt, blue jeans, and black rubber sandals. Only Su Jin obviously knew this man. "Miss Su, I'm so glad you're okay." When Anli, who was originally drowsy, saw Su Jin, his eyes suddenly glowed with gold. He spoke fluent Daksha language and stood up to welcome the two in. Su Wei, who was standing by, felt his heart sink. There was definitely something wrong with this guy. "Anli, I'm very sorry about your father's matter," Su Jin said with a sad face. "Miss Su, don't be sorry. In your Sha country's words, life and death are determined by fate, and wealth and honor are determined by God." Anli also showed a sad face, but Su Wei didn't feel his sadness at all. "My condolences," Su Jin comforted him. "Thank you, Miss Su. Are you here to retrieve that thing?" Anli nodded and took the initiative to ask. "Yes, that's right." "Did Guli give it to you?" Su Jin was overjoyed when she heard this. Guli was indeed reliable and worthy of being an old partner for many years. "Yes, my father told me to leave it to Miss Su or Miss Su's client," Anli replied. "Thank you very much. This is a small gift. Please accept it." It's a little compensation for Mr. Ghoulie. Sujin took out a stack of Daksha coins from her bag and put it on the table in front of her. At least tens of thousands of yuan, which is tens of millions when converted into Maninian currency. This is already a huge sum of money for the economically backward Maninia, not to mention the war years. However, unexpectedly, Enlai shook his head and pushed the money back. Chapter 211. Let the money fly for a while. Enlai, this is a little gift for Mr. Ghoulie. I hope you won't be polite, Sujin said and pushed the money over again. No, I think Miss Su misunderstood. Enlai smiled and pushed the money back. Misunderstanding? What do you mean? Sujin was confused. He wants to pay more. Su Wei had already seen Enlai's intention and reminded Sujin. More money? Sujin frowned slightly. Haha, this gentleman is smart. Miss Su, I know the thing is very important to you, and we also risked our lives to protect it, so paying an equal amount of remuneration is not too much, right? Enlai said with a smile that he thought was elegant. Then how much do you want? Sujin suppressed the discomfort in her heart and asked in a deep voice. Not much, with your strength, it's just a drop in the bucket, Enlai said and stretched out a finger. 100,000, Sujin frowned even deeper. She had never experienced such a thing before. No, it's 1 million, and it must be in US dollars, Enlai said loudly. Enlai, don't forget who helped you build this processing plant. Don't forget, if it weren't for our assistance, you wouldn't have had a chance to survive. Sujin was angry. She didn't expect Ghoulie's son to be such an ungrateful person. Miss Su, don't be angry, I haven't forgotten what you said, and I also kept the things for you according to my father's instructions, otherwise, I would have sold it to someone else long ago. The price they offered was much higher than what I wanted. Enlai still had a smiling face, but it was disgusting to look at. Yu Sujin was speechless. Miss Su, to put it bluntly, your era is about to pass. After the Red Sleeves army comes to power, the United States will increase its investment in Maninia, and Maninia's good days will come. So, this transaction, I am completely considering the favor you once helped my family. Enlai continued to advocate. Good life? Do you know what the Americans did in Maninia? I tell you, even if the Red Sleeves army wins, there will be Blue Sleeves army, Yellow Sleeves army, and White Sleeves army. They will never let Maninia develop peacefully. They will use civil war to exhaust Maninia's blood and drain the wealth of Maninia's people, and finally turn it into the colony they want. Sujin was so angry that her face turned red, and she almost roared at Enlai. So what? Anyway, I'm going to immigrate. With this money, it's enough to settle me and my family. Enlai was stunned for a moment, but then smiled and said. He looked like he was invulnerable to oil and salt, and was invulnerable to water and fire. Yu Sujin was so angry that she wanted to fight, but Su Wei stretched out his hand to stop her. Miss Su, this is Maninia, not your Xia country, so, don't make everyone look bad. If something happens to me, you will never get that thing. Enlai thought he had grasped Sujin's vital point and was not afraid at all. Okay, stop talking nonsense. How much is the account? I'll give you the money. Su Wei stood up and said. Time is precious, he doesn't want to have an endless argument here. As for the money, don't be funny, artificial intelligence, just hack into the bank system and send him a fake message. Search clothes Z. Enlai was stunned. $1 million US. He just asked for a sky-high price, and he was even prepared to bargain. Unexpectedly, Su Wei agreed directly. Who is this guy? Is he reliable? Old wolf, you, don't talk, listen to me and everything. Sujin was instantly furious, but was forcibly held down by Su Wei. What are you doing? Don't tell me you don't have a bank account. $1 million US in cash. Don't even think about it. Where can I get it now? Su Wei teased Enlai. Yes, I have an account at an international general bank. You can transfer the money to it. Enlai immediately wrote down the account number. Su Wei took the account number and walked out, then took out a satellite phone and pretended to make a call. In fact, he gave the account number to the artificial intelligence. Okay, you should receive a text message about the deposit. Where's the money? Su Wei walked back to the office and said to Enlai. Wait, our mobile phone signal has been out for a long time. I'll call to check. Enlai also took out a satellite phone and called the International General Bank. Damn, it's bad. Su Wei's heart jumped. Why is there no money? Are you lying to me? I tell you, the consequences of lying to me are very serious. Sure enough, Enlai's face changed instantly, and he looked at Su Wei fiercely and said, "Such a large amount of money will take some time to be deposited. Don't worry, let the money fly for a while," Su Wei said calmly, pretending to be calm. It seems to make sense." Enlai heard this, and his anger immediately dissipated. Su Wei took out his mobile phone and asked the artificial intelligence to directly hack into the bank system and take over Enlai's account. "Okay, check again," Su Wei put away his phone and said, as if he just checked the time. Enlai immediately called the International General Bank again. This time it worked. The artificial intelligence directly played the role of customer service and satisfied all of Enlai's inquiries. The moment he hung up the phone, Enlai's face was flushed, extremely excited, and his eyes were emitting a scorching light. He never dreamed that he would become a millionaire one day, and everything came so unexpectedly. "Have you found it now?" Su Wei asked with a smile on his face. "The greatest sorrow in the world is that you think you are a multimillionaire, but in fact you are not." I found it, Enlai smiled from ear to ear and kept thanking Su Wei. Su Jin was so anxious that she wanted to stand up several times, but Su Wei pulled her back. "Where is the stuff?" Su Wei asked again. "Don't worry, I put it in an absolutely safe place, absolutely safe. Come with me," Enlai patted his chest and said. Su Jin looked at Su Wei with a questioning look in her eyes. Now she no longer believed in this Enlai. "Lead the way." Su Wei stood up without hesitation. Su Jin had no choice but to stand up as well. "Old wolf, aren't you afraid that he will play some tricks again?" After catching up, Su Jin leaned close to Su Wei and whispered in his ear. A special fragrance immediately filled Su Wei's mouth and nose. "It's okay, just watch my performance," Su Wei also said in a low voice. The numb feeling made Su Jin blush. Chapter 212 Heaven. Enlai led the way. When he left the office, he did not go to the front door, but to the back door. He turned left and walked towards a ruin. "Take this, be careful later." Su Wei reached into his arms, took out a small pistol from the space, and quietly put it into Su Jin's hand. This was found in the Red Sleeve Army's arsenal. At that time, he thought it was very special, so he kept it. Now it comes in handy. "Huh? Are you so sure?" Su Jin took the pistol, hid it in her clothes without leaving any trace, and asked curiously in a low voice. When they just came out, the two deliberately lagged behind for a distance, so there was no need to worry that Enlai could hear it. "This guy's greed is engraved in his bones, and he will never be satisfied," Su Wei said lightly. "You mean, he has betrayed us?" Su Jin still found it difficult to accept. In fact, she also knew in her heart that once a person has greed, he can do anything. "Maybe, he said he wanted to immigrate, and he only wanted US dollars. Obviously, he has found a way, otherwise, it's not that easy to immigrate to the United States, especially during the war," Su Wei analyzed. "Then why did you give him so much money? Let me make it clear in advance that if the application is not approved, I can't afford to pay for the money." Su Jin couldn't help complaining, which made her, who is always heroic, have a hint of tenderness. "Haha, if you don't have money, just pay with your body," Su Wei made a joke. "Bah," Su Jin blushed with shame, but surprisingly did not refute. "I was kidding. I had someone hack into his international bank account, and the information he found was all fake," Su Wei explained with a low laugh. "Ah, this couldn't work," Su Jin screamed in shock, and soon realized that she had lost her composure, and quickly reached out to cover her mouth. "That is the International Bank, known as the safest bank in the world, and even the world's top hackers are helpless." Unexpectedly, Su Wei could actually hack into it. In this case, Enlai is quite pitiful. "Nonsense, how can a man be incompetent?" Su Wei rolled his eyes at Su Jin and found that teasing her was quite fun. "Humph," Su Jin snorted and blushed again. She used to hate men with such flowery words, but for some reason, when Lao Lang said it, she couldn't hate it. Instead, she felt an inexplicable sense of joy in her heart. This is really going to happen. Why did she become so strange? "We're here." Just when Su Jin was worried about gains and losses, Enlai, who was walking in front, stopped. After the two looked around, they recognized it from a pile of ruins. This should have been a trading market in the past. Many abandoned billboards were scattered on the ground, and some commodity packaging was still left under the collapsed shops. However, those commodities had already been looted by the refugees. "You hide the things here?" Su Wei looked very suspicious. "Haha, sir, don't doubt it, the things are here, and there are people guarding it." While Enlai was talking, A team of mercenaries in combat uniforms walked out of the ruins. Demon Hound, Sujin's face suddenly became ugly when she saw the leader. This is a notorious team of mercenaries who do all kinds of evil and have committed crimes to the point of being outrageous. Hey, Yudi, we meet again. The leader of the mercenaries is a white young man, about 30 years old, with a pointed face and a bamboo-like body. The length of his two arms is almost close to his knees, giving people a very weird visual feeling. Yudi, Su Wei was stunned and looked at Sujin on the side. This is my code name for the operation. Sujin's eyes were fixed on the white young man opposite. Oh. It sounds good, Su Wei nodded when he heard it. His name is Wilson, codename Demon Hound, and he is an alien, Sujin introduced to Su Wei. Aliens. Are they from the US Shield or the Avengers? Su Wei asked curiously. Why are these people so rampant in Manila? Neither. They are notorious murderers. Not only have they been removed from the US Special Forces, but they have also been stripped of their US citizenship, Sujin explained. I see, Su Wei nodded thoughtfully. Yudi, is this your new partner? Ask him how he wants to die. The two were chatting, but Wilson on the opposite side couldn't wait any longer. He stared at Su Wei with a pair of narrow eyes and provoked him. Sujin's previous partner, Xian Yu, was killed by him cutting open his chest with his bare hands, grabbing his heart and crushing it. Demon Hound, I'm going to kill you today to avenge Xian Yu, Sujin said with hatred. Hey, come on, tender-skinned and tender, I like it, Wilson grinned, revealing a mouthful of white teeth, even ferocious. Wait, I've brought the people to you, where's my reward? Just as the fight was about to start, Andre jumped out to show his presence and said to Wilson. You guys fight your way, but the reward can't be reduced by a cent. That's right, give it to him, Wilson smiled and said to a soldier beside him. Drowned, the soldier saluted and walked towards Andre. 3Q? 3Q. Andre looked at the white soldier who was walking over and nodded happily. Click. Unfortunately, what he waited for was a loaded pistol, the muzzle of which was pointed at the left side of his chest, at the position of his heart. This, what are you doing? Andre's face changed drastically, and he couldn't speak clearly. He never thought it would turn out like this. What for? Of course, I'm sending you to heaven, there's only no war in heaven, bang. The soldier fired without hesitation. A bullet instantly penetrated Andre's body, bringing out a large amount of blood. Bang. And life fell to the ground like a broken sack. His face was filled with shock, astonishment, disbelief, and unwillingness, all mixed together, highlighting his hideousness. He never dreamed that the paradise these people were talking about was not the United States, but a real paradise. If he had known earlier, he would have only traded with Sujin, and he would not have ended up like this. Unfortunately, it was too late to say anything now. The soldier who fired the gun didn't even look at and lie on the ground. He put away his gun and walked back to his original position. Okay, the annoying flies have been killed, now, let's have a good chat, Wilson said to Sujin and Xiaohu with a smile on his face. Oh, by the way, I almost forgot to sue you, Unlai has already given me your stuff, it's a good shot, what a pity, it's all in vain. Hey, without waiting for the two to speak, Wilson started shouting again. Chapter 213. The more beastly, the more powerful. Beast? Sujin's eyes were red, and she was about to rush forward, but was stopped by Su Wei. When there are men around, it's not your turn to fight for your life, Su Wei said, pulling Sujin behind him, and facing Wilson himself. Nice, you are much braver than the last man, but don't let me down later. Wilson stared at Su Wei with narrow eyes, as if he saw the prey in his hand. Several soldiers around laughed mockingly at Su Wei. They knew the captain's strength best. Unless the king level from Xia country came in person, they would only die. But there were not many king-level soldiers in Xia country, so why would they send them to the chaotic land casually? If they died, the loss would be great. I would like to disappoint you, unfortunately, my strength does not allow it, Su Wei smiled coldly. Those who stain the blood of their compatriots die. I hope your bones are as hard as your mouth. Wilson's narrow eyes narrowed. This means that he is angry. You talk too much nonsense, don't you know that villains die because they talk too much? Hammer. Su Wei was too lazy to argue anymore, so he just threw a punch and hit him first. You're looking for death? Wilson was furious when he saw Su Wei attacking him with his bare hands. The other party obviously underestimated him. As he spoke, Wilson also rushed forward, and his hands moved with a pair of sharp claws. The appearance was somewhat similar to that of an old cat, but the palm was longer and the claws were shorter. However, in this way, the power must be stronger than that of an old cat. Wilson's pair of sharp claws avoided Suwei's fist and grabbed his chest. If he grabbed it firmly, he would definitely be ripped open. Suwei was so good that he could still change the trajectory of his punch with his explosive power, turning the straight punch into a horizontal punch and sweeping it towards Wilson's face. Wilson quickly changed his moves and rushed to Suwei's arm with his claws. The horizontal punch can hide a much larger target than the straight punch. Swish! The claws hooked on the sleeve and immediately tore a big hole, but Suwei was faster. Before Wilson could get a firm grip, he punched him on the right side of his chin. Bang! The huge impact made Wilson feel like he was hit by a truck. His whole body was directly knocked out and stopped when he hit a concrete wall. The wall was cracked and his whole HUD was embedded in it. Crash! Wilson quickly pulled his head out, and the broken concrete blocks fell off in large pieces. With a bang, the wall fell to the ground. He shook his head hard to wake himself up quickly. The stinging pain on his face made Wilson know that he was injured. What was even more outrageous was that his jawbone was crooked, and his mouth was wide open and couldn't close, and a large amount of saliva and blood flowed out. Snap! Wilson was also a ruthless person. He twisted his jawbone back by himself, making a harsh sound. Tisk tisk, your mouth is not good either, it will be deformed if you hit it a little harder, demon hound. Tui, I think it's more like a cesspool dog. Suwei was snapping his fingers and kept saying things. With Sujin's constant cheering, Wilson's hair instantly exploded. Human, you will pay the price for this, roar. Wilson roared, and his bones began to squirm crazily, including his face, which became more and more hideous. His eye sockets were sunken, his mouth and nose were protruding. His canine teeth were staggered, and his limbs were on the ground. He looked like an enlarged version of a pit bull. Damn, you're not human. You look like you're not a human, you're a real dog. Ha ha ha, Suwei couldn't help laughing. This guy's beastification was even more powerful than an old cat. Could it be that the stronger the ability, the deeper the beastification? Can it be understood as, the more beastly, the more powerful? Go to hell. The furious Wilson didn't give Suwei time to think about such a profound question, and rushed forward impatiently. Not only did he have claws, but he also had sharp teeth. He was like a bloodthirsty and ferocious beast. Cannon hammer. Suwei activated a grip of death, and his fists turned black. But Wilson had lost his mind at this time, and his only thought was to tear the enemy in front of him to pieces, so even if Suwei's hands were full of flowers, he only had the eyes to attack. Bang! The fists and claws collided, making a dull sound, and the power was so great that people in the distance felt that the air was vibrating. However, there was a subtle sound of bone cracking hidden in it. Obviously, Wilson was no match for Suwei's strength, and his claws had been broken. And the claws he was proud of were vulnerable in front of the grip of death. Every time they collided, his claws couldn't even scratch a shallow mark, but Suwei's power was actually transmitted to him. After a few rounds, Wilson felt the pain in his arm, and his strength and speed were reduced. On the other hand, Suwei fought harder and harder, and his punches were faster and stronger than the last. Bang, bang, bang. Finally, after several attacks, Wilson was once again blown away by Suwei's iron fist. This time, he crashed directly into a pile of rubble and was buried alive. Oh my god, oh, god, the other soldiers rushed over to dig a pit, hoping to dig Wilson out. The captain's image as a strong man collapsed instantly, and he felt an irresistible fear of Suwei in his heart. Fortunately, Suwei stood still, which made them feel much more at ease. Sujin was stunned, and her pretty little mouth opened into an O shape. She had overestimated Suwei, but Suwei's performance still exceeded her expectations. In fact, Wilson was not weak either. His comprehensive strength had reached the strength of the middle stage of the diamond level, and he was definitely a strong man. Unfortunately, he met Suwei. A level 4 awakener is equivalent to a diamond level warrior, but he has an unparalleled physique, his strength has doubled, and his overall strength is no less than that of a king level warrior. This can be regarded as a hegemon. Therefore, it is not unfair for Wilson to lose. AWW. Suddenly, a roar of a beast after being injured sounded, and the ruins exploded with a bang, and an enlarged version of the pitbull rushed out. Damn, this guy now looks almost the same as a beast, and has reached more than 95% of the complete beast form. The clothes on his body exploded into strips of cloth, and his originally skinny body was bulging with muscles, full of explosive power. The powerful aura spread and actually hit the late diamond level, but it was still one step away from the king level. Two soldiers who were unable to dodge were directly bitten by the demon hunting dog in the neck, and their heads rolled to the ground like basketballs, with a pair of bulging eyes. As if they didn't understand what was going on until they died? Roar Wilson has lost the ability to speak, and only roaring can vent his anger. The remaining soldiers turned and ran away in fear, wishing their parents had given them 2 more legs. Old Wolf, be careful. Su Jin pulled out her pistol and tried to rush forward to help, but Su Wei raised his hand to stop her. Are you kidding? It's just a Diamond Queen. This is just a small scene. Chapter 214 The Sad Survivor. Ao. Will soon rushed over like a flying bird. His speed increased a lot after he was fully transformed into a beast. Unfortunately, in the eyes of Su Wei, who was good at shooting, he was still not good enough. Cannon hammer. Bang. One punch to block the attack, and then another punch to teach him a lesson. Will soon was still beaten by Su Wei. Seeing this scene, Su Jin's worry was half relieved. She stared at the mysterious man in front of her with her eyes. Superb medical skills, superb hacking skills, peerless shooting skills, and unfathomable martial arts. The more you understand, the less you understand. Roar. At this moment, Will soon launched countless attacks and rushed straight towards Su Wei. Su Wei continued to serve with cannon hammer. If nothing unexpected happens, something unexpected will happen soon. Will soon, who was nearby, suddenly disappeared in front of Su Wei with a whoosh. The next moment, his figure appeared in front of Su Jin, and his broken claws grabbed the snow-white neck like lightning. Be careful, Su Wei was shocked. This guy could actually flash. Su Jin had been locked by Will soon, and it was difficult for her to retreat. At this moment, she even felt a breath of death, but when she saw Su Wei running towards her with a nervous face, she couldn't help but feel relieved. Now that I'm dead, will he remember me? For some reason, Su Jin didn't have the slightest fear of death, and even raised the corners of her mouth and smiled. Will Soon's red eyes showed a trace of suspicion, but he was already riding a tiger and couldn't back down, so he gritted his teeth and continued to attack. Force field shield. Su Wei moved his mind, and a light blue light shield appeared in front of Su Jin. Buzz! Will Soon's claws hit the force field shield, making a muffled sound, and the light shield stubbornly blocked his full strength attack. What? Superpower? Will Soon was stunned for a moment. He didn't expect Su Wei to have a trick up his sleeve. Evil dog, take my punch. 8 extreme collapse. Su Wei attacked with hatred, and the power of his punch was unstoppable. Ouch. Bang. Before Wilson could dodge, he was hit in the jaw by a punch. The huge force instantly shattered his jawbone. Crack bang, the cervical vertebrae were also broken, and a dog's head was folded at an incredible angle, hanging on the back like a hood, swaying left and right. The famous demon hunting dog in the industry was killed before he could even scream. The broken body fell to the ground like a broken sack, and the bulging muscles were like a balloon with a hole in it, shrinking instantly, and then returning to the appearance of a skinny body. Swish! Su Wei instantly put away the force field shield and the death grip, looking at the sky at a 45-degree angle, handsome as hell. Puff! This deathbreaker made Su Jin, who was standing beside him, laugh out loud. The mind that had just been frightened also calmed down. It even had an illusion. As long as he was there, no problem was a problem, no threat was a threat. It was so dangerous just now. Why were you laughing? Aren't you afraid? Su Wei put away the broken death, walked up to Su Jin, and asked curiously. I'm not afraid, I feel that you will save me, Su Jin said, her cheeks blushing. The number of times she blushed during this day was more than the total of the previous times. Su Wei was speechless for a while. This girl is really generous. Is knowing how to save and being able to save the same thing? Oh, it's bad. Just when Su Wei was powerless to complain, Su Jin suddenly screamed. What's the matter? Su Wei asked hurriedly. If he's dead, then the information can't be recovered. Su Jin slapped her head in annoyance, feeling very sad. Even if he is alive, it is unlikely that he will give you the information. Maybe it has been destroyed long ago? Su Wei shook his head. Alice, Su Jin also knew that the possibility of recovering it was very small, but she still couldn't help but sigh in disappointment. What kind of information is it? Su Wei asked curiously. The United States built a pharmaceutical factory in Manila, named Crittenberg Biotechnology, but in fact, a virus laboratory was built underground, codenamed Doomsday. It specializes in the research of genetic viruses. We spent a lot of manpower and material resources to sneak in and recorded the video of them conducting virus experiments on living people. During the investigation, we also found that they collected genetic information of people from various countries through various channels, especially our people's genetic information, with a completion rate of up to 35%. If they develop a genetic virus targeting us, it will be an extinction blow to us, Su Jin said with resentment. Originally, with those evidences, they could make it public to let the world know the evil intentions of the United States and apply for sanctions against Crittenberg Biotechnology by the United Nations. At that time, Xiaoguo would have a reason to send troops to Manila to maintain peace. Doomsday, genetic virus. Su Wei's face was terribly gloomy after hearing this. If you have never been to the wasteland, you can't experience the cruelty of the Doomsday. The United States actually intends to create a Doomsday virus, which is simply unforgivable. Let's go. Su Wei looked up and said to Su Jin. Although he adjusted his mood, he could still feel a breath of ice. Su Jin, who was in the tropics, felt like she was falling into an ice cellar. Old wolf, what's wrong with you? Su Jin asked with concern. Nothing, I just feel that the Americans are quite hateful, Su Wei replied coldly. But he added another sentence in his heart, such things should not exist in the world. Oh, old wolf, you take Shirley and the others to go first. My mission failed, I have to stay and look for opportunities. Su Jin reached out and stroked her short hair, tucked the ends of her hair behind her ears, revealing her white earlobes. If she wore earrings, she would be very beautiful. You are exposed and still staying. Stay and wait to die. You can get intelligence again, but you only have one life. The order from above is to take you back, so, now you must obey my orders. Let's go. As he said that, Su Wei grabbed Su Jin's slender hand and walked back the way he came. But, Su Jin blushed, but couldn't find a reason to refute. She couldn't break free, so she could only let him pull her back. The ruins returned to their previous calm, except for a few more corpses on the ground. The demon hounds had already cleared the area, so no one else would come in a short time. Their bodies could only slowly rot over time. There were rustling sounds. Suddenly, a corpse moved. It turned out to be Enlil, who was shot first. He gritted his teeth and struggled to stand up. The severe pain made his face distorted, and the wound on his chest began to bleed again. Chapter 215 discovered. Fuck, these Americans are so dishonest. Fortunately, I was born different from ordinary people, with my heart on the right instead of the left, otherwise I would be really dead. But with that $1 million, I can live a carefree life for the rest of my life. Enlil wanted to tear Wilson into pieces, but his body couldn't support his extreme actions. So he left with a curse. He fantasized about escaping from here, and then taking the $1 million given by Su Wei to become a local tyrant in other countries. However, when Enlil went through many twists and turns and spent all his money to withdraw money from other countries, he found that his account was empty. Not to mention $1 million, even the wife his father earned for him was missing. His life collapsed in an instant, and he eventually fell to begging on the streets. Of course, these are all later stories. Speaking of which, Su Wei took Su Jin back to the car, as if nothing had happened here. The refugees around him looked at Su Wei and the guns deliberately displayed by Chu Haoan and others with fear. After the two got on the car, they drove away without saying anything. At the same time, a shrill alarm sounded again in an underground base thousands of miles away. The soldier guard in the screen looked closely and was immediately frightened. After the death of Lucifer's Jack, the demon hound Wilson lost his life information within half a day. The soldier immediately trotted to the general to report. What? After hearing the news of the death of the demon hound Wilson, the general was furious and the pen in his hand was directly broken into several pieces. Where is it located? After calming himself down, the general asked coldly. In the ruins of the slums in the town of Caston, the soldier replied hurriedly. The general was very angry and the consequences were serious. Is there any news about the people sent to Longji? The general asked again after thinking for a while. Longji and Caston, both are related to the Xia country agent. Could it be that the other party has a powerful helper? Not yet, General, the soldier replied in a low voice. Got it, Send the 5th team to the town of Caston to confirm the situation of Wilson. The general gradually calmed down and gave the order. Yes, General. The soldier saluted and turned to leave. No matter who comes, don't try to succeed. The general looked at the opposite wall and fell into deep thought, with a bleak and murderous look on his face. Because of Su Wei's actions in the war zone on the way here, the Red Sleeve Army was miserable and evacuated in advance. These areas returned to the hands of the government army. When they learned that Su Wei and his men were all from Daxia, they were allowed to pass directly. However, the premise was that the weapons would be handed over to the military for safekeeping and returned to them after passing the controlled area. In this regard, Su Wei directly decided not to take them. After throwing a few broken AKs to the government army, the group left. As for Chu Haoyin's golden AK, it had long been confiscated by Su Wei and lay in the space, escaping a disaster. The rest of the journey was smooth, and finally arrived at Nanming Port at dawn the next day. The longbow destroyer had picked up everyone, and when Su Wei and his men appeared, they immediately prepared to leave. The 3 war zones suffered setbacks one after another. The Red Sleeves army was furious and launched crazy revenge in other areas. The Nanming port was already in danger. However, when it was time to board the ship, Su Wei wanted to stay on the grounds that he had a mission. Comrade Liu Lang, I must remind you, now even the embassy has evacuated Maninia. It can be said that if you stay, you will become a real isolated army. Why don't you leave first and talk about it later? Captain Ho Yuan said with a serious face. He didn't know whether Su Wei had a mission or not, but the superiors attached great importance to this man. Unfortunately, he had no authority and was powerless to stop Su Wei's decision. I know, don't worry, I have my own way. Su Wei smiled and shook his head, rejecting Ho Yuan's proposal. Okay then. We are about to set off, just tell me if you need anything, Ho Yuan said and returned to the warship. The voyage was about to begin, and he had to go back to take charge of affairs. My stomach hurts so much? Brother Lang, I'm leaving first. Chu Haoyin suddenly said this on the side, and ran onto the warship without waiting for everyone to respond. Dong Zhao and the other 2 hurriedly followed. They were not only factory employees, but also Chu Haoyin's bodyguards, so they naturally couldn't be careless for a moment. Old Lang, do you have any other tasks? Su Jin asked reluctantly. No one would care about Chu Haoyin's sudden departure. You are not at a high enough level. Su Wei smiled and shook his head. Then will we meet again? Su Jin asked. We will meet again if we are destined to, Su Wei still said with a smile. He was no longer a novice, so he could naturally see that Su Jin was interested in him, but her identity was destined not to live in the sun, and following him might not be a good thing. Let it be. Yet, Su Jin looked disappointed, looked at Su Wei deeply, and prepared to board the ship. At this moment, Feng Zuli suddenly ran up and hugged Su Wei. This scene made the small table, stool and chair stunned. Their manager, a career-oriented strong woman, actually took the initiative to hug a man who had known each other for less than 2 days. This was too exciting. The 3 of them couldn't help but took out their mobile phones and secretly took a picture. This is the capital for bragging in the future. Oh, Manager Feng, you are not good at this. Su Wei was confused. Thank you for coming all the way to save me, boss, Feng Zuli whispered in Su Wei's ear. Su Wei was stunned for a moment. Take care. Feng Zuli turned and left before Su Wei could react. The small table, stool and chair hurriedly followed. Su Jin was stunned and wanted to ask something, but she didn't say it in the end. She turned around and boarded the battleship. People came to rescue Feng Zuli, and it was not surprising that the 2 had a close relationship. This was Su Jin's psychological comfort to herself. This woman, when did you find out? Su Wei looked at Feng Zuli who boarded the battleship, and his heart was full of question marks. It seems that after returning home, I have to talk to her alone and have a good in-depth communication. Woo. After the longbow sounded its whistle, it slowly sailed out of the port and headed towards the deep blue sea. Su Wei looked at the shadow of the battleship gradually disappearing and fell into deep thought. Brother Wolf, at this moment, Chu Haoyin's voice sounded beside him. Su Wei turned around and saw that it was not only him, but also Dong Zhao and his group of 3 followed. Oh my god, why are you staying? Su Wei had a headache. This prodigal thing can't be sent away. Brother Wolf's mission is my mission, isn't it? Chu Haoyin said with a shameless face. He hasn't learned to shoot a gun yet, how can he be separated? If the other party doesn't admit it, he will lose a lot. Chapter 216, face changer. Get lost, Su Wei was annoyed. He wanted to do it quietly by himself, but he had to bring this Spartan with him. He really wanted to kick him into the sea and let him swim back. Brother Wolf, when I heard you had a mission, I knew you wouldn't agree to let me stay, so I made an excuse to go up and pee, and then ran down from the other side. How was it? Am I smart? Chu Haoan looked like he was about to praise me. Hey, the place I'm going to is a life-threatening place. Aren't you afraid of some accidents? Su Wei was speechless. I'm not afraid of death, so what accidents should I be afraid of? Brother Wolf, don't worry, life and death are determined by fate. I just want to live a glorious life, rather than a cowardly one, Chu Haoan said with a rare serious face. Aren't you afraid of your family being sad? Su Wei asked. Sad? Don't be funny, the old man has countless female confidants, he's very happy. Besides, I have 3 brothers and 2 sisters, no matter what, it's not your turn to be sad for me, Chu Haoan teased, with a nonchalant look on his face, hiding a lot of sadness and helplessness. This couldn't help but move Su Wei a little. I didn't expect that this rich second generation had such a sad experience. Okay, then you can follow me. At this moment, Su Wei made an important decision in his heart. The overlord who would dominate Africa in the future was born. Thank you, Brother Wolf. Chu Haoan was overjoyed when he heard this, but he didn't think it was anything special. Little did he know that this mix was enough to change his life. By the way, what about you 3? If you lose your life here, no one will know. Su Wei turned his eyes to Dong Zhao and the other 2. Young Master Chu has been very kind to us. For him, the 3 of us will go through fire and water without hesitation. Dong Zhao stood up to express his position, and Ma Qiang and Hong Dania nodded. Chu Haoan gave the 3 of them high-paying jobs when they were at their lowest point. This friendship is enough for Dong Zhao and the other 2 to remember for a lifetime. This is the contract between people with affection and righteousness. Okay, if you are not afraid of death, follow me, Su Wei said and got on the co-pilot of the car. Chu Haoan ran to drive wisely. Dong Zhao and the other 2 drove their off-road vehicles and followed Su Wei and his car. The 2 cars left Nanming Port again, one after the other, and disappeared on the broken road. The government troops stationed in Nanming Port were surprised, but they had no time to pay attention. The crazy Red Sleeve army gathered again and prepared to take over Nanming Port in one fell swoop. In this way, even if they completely controlled the import and export of Manania, it would be impossible for the government troops to seek foreign aid. The longboat here has entered the high seas area and is heading towards the southern waters of Daxia along the established route. In the captain's room, Ho Yuan had a private talk with Su Jin. When he learned that the mission had failed, Ho Yuan showed a sad look on his face. It took several years, cost countless people, and sacrificed many people, but in the end, it failed. The room was filled with a depressing atmosphere. Ding ding. At this moment, the captain's exclusive satellite phone rang. Hello, Ho Yuan immediately answered the phone. Comrade Ho Yuan, this is Xia Yahu. An old but vigorous voice came from the phone. Hello, old Xia. Please give me instructions. Ho Yuan stood at attention directly. Haha, don't be nervous, Comrade Ho Yuan, I just want to ask you something. Xia Yahu's hearty laughter came from the phone. Due to the war, all communications in Manino were cut off. Old Xia could only contact Su Wei through the military channel. Yes, after listening, Ho Yuan answered crisply. Calculate the date, you should also return. Has the comrade who was on the ship returned? Old Master Xiao was undoubtedly asking Su Wei. Old Wolf, he said he had a mission to perform and didn't come back with him, Ho Yuan reported immediately. What other mission does he have? Who assigned him the mission? The old man Xiao on the phone was furious. Su Wei is now a national treasure. What if something unexpected happens? This, Comrade Lao Lang didn't say, just said that we don't have enough authority. Ho Yuan had to report truthfully. Nonsense. Nonsense, this kid is really nonsense. Old man Xiao was so angry that he blew his beard. Well, so, Lao Lang doesn't have any other mission. Old Xiao, do you want to send another helicopter to pick him up? Ho Yuan was confused. Why did he take the initiative to stay in Manania? He was puzzled. Huh? Forget it, you don't have to worry about this. After calming down, old man Xia said this. Yes, old Xia. After that, both parties hung up the phone. Su Jin. At this time, Ho Yuan found that Su Jin was in a daze and called her twice to wake her up. Oh, what's the matter? Su Jin came back to her senses and saw Ho Yuan's suspicious expression, and asked hurriedly. I'm fine, but you seem to be in trouble, Ho Yuan complained. I'm fine too, maybe I'm a little tired, Su Jin replied quickly. Okay, you go back and rest first. When you go back, the organization will have other arrangements. Seeing that Su Jin didn't say anything, Ho Yuan didn't intend to ask any more questions. Yes, Su Jin said, and walked out of the captain's room. As soon as she went out, Su Jin's vision became blurred. Just now, she heard that Lao Lang had no mission, but he insisted on staying in Manila. This reminded her of Lao Lang's expression when he heard about the Credenberg Biological Company. Did he stay in Manila because his mission failed? Did he want to help him complete this mission? Did he know how dangerous it was? This fool. It was a pity that the longbow was far away from Manila, otherwise Su Jin really wanted to jump into the sea and swim back to find Lao Lang to ask him face to face. While Su Jin was complaining to herself, Su Wei and his team had already crossed hundreds of kilometers and went deep into the hinterland of Manila. Most of the area here has been controlled by the Red Sleeves army, and they can no longer drive as before. The main reason is that the faces and skin of several people are too eye-catching, and they will be recognized at a glance. Therefore, Su Wei decided to give Chu Haoyan and others plastic surgery. Of course, it was just a minor surgery. He took out the skin-changing potion from Lao Qin and gave it to the 4 people to drink. Oh my! They immediately became pitch black, just like they came out of a coal mine. Brother, is this thing really only temporary? Chu Haoyan looked at himself in the rearview mirror and almost cried. He never dreamed that he would become a charcoal HUD one day. If he couldn't change back, he would want to die. Don't worry, it will only take 2 or 3 days. Look, this is not bad, it's almost the same as the locals, Su Wei comforted him guiltily. He only saw that the instructions said that the skin color change was not permanent, and who knew how long it would take to recover. Brother, what's wrong with your eyes? It's very different, okay, this is even darker than the natives, Chu Haoyan said with tears in his eyes. Dong Zhao and the other 2 didn't care. Instead, they thought it was better this way, because it was safer. It's better to be darker, isn't black beautiful here? You look like this now. In the eyes of black girls, you are super handsome, maybe there will be some who will pay for you, but you don't have to thank me, I'm always willing to help others, Su Wei patted Chu Haoyan on the shoulder and said selflessly. I thank your 8 generations of ancestors. Chu Haoyan looked helpless, but he only dared to complain in his heart. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 217 Canon. By the way, Brother Wolf, why don't you drink? Chu Haoyan suddenly looked at Su Wei and asked curiously. After talking for a long time, he was still talking blankly. I'll show you a magic trick, watch it. Su Wei smiled mysteriously and turned around. He stretched out his hand and pretended to rub his face for a while, then selected the synthesized black face on the illusion and activated a grip of death at the same time. When Su Wei turned around again, he had completely changed into another person. Oh, damn, face changer, Chu Haoyan and his friends were almost scared to death. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, who would believe that a person's appearance could change in the blink of an eye? However, Su Wei did it, and it was so natural. Brother, you have this unique skill, why do you still let us drink that damn thing? Chu Haoyan suddenly felt like he had fallen into a trap. You can't control this ability for the time being, so you can only use a more primitive method. Su Wei looked embarrassed. At present, he only has 2 sets of illusions, and one was left for Xiao Wei. So they had to be the guinea pigs. Oh, brother, you said temporarily, are you going to teach us? Chu Haoyan's focus is always so different. However, this time Dong Zhao and the other 2 also became interested, looking at Su Wei expectantly. Who wouldn't want to learn such an amazing ability? Let's talk about it when there's a chance, Su Wei said more and more guilty. If they knew that a pair of glasses could do it, would they beat him to death? At this moment, Su Wei swore that he would never let Chu Haoyan and the others know about the existence of the phantom demon. Yes, this is for harmony, to beat the pit? Brother, you said it, I remember it all. Chu Haoyan was immediately happy and ran to drive excitedly. Alice, this unlucky child, I'll make it up to him when there's a chance. Su Wei thought so, got in the car, and continued to move forward. On the way, Su Wei was not idle either. He used artificial intelligence to hack into the official system of Menenia and screened out the identity information of several Menenia people who matched their current identities. Although it is expired, but now there are wars everywhere, who would check it carefully? As long as it makes sense, it's fine. Bang, bang, bang. After driving for dozens of kilometers, there was a sudden burst of fierce gunfire in front. Creak. The two off-road vehicles braked suddenly and stopped steadily on the side of the road. There were 4 black tire marks on the ground, and there was a pungent smell of rubber in the air. Su Wei jumped on the roof of the car at the first time, holding a telescope in his hand, and looked in the direction where the gunshots came from. I saw a group of red sleeves chasing the government army. The number of people on both sides was about the same, with hundreds of people on each side. But the red sleeves had 3 modified pickup trucks with 3 heavy machine guns installed on them, spraying flames fiercely. Anyone who was touched would be either dead or injured. Under the suppression of heavy firepower, the government army had no choice but to flee. And the direction of escape was heading towards Su Wei and his men. In this case, the other side would only treat them as government troops and shoot them together. There was not even a chance to explain, "This is war. Prepare for battle." Su Wei hurriedly jumped off the roof and shouted to the others. He then rushed into the trunk and took out a Barrett anti-material sniper rifle from the space under the cover of the seat. When Chu Haoyan and the others got out of the car with the AK that Su Wei had prepared for them in advance, Su Wei was already holding an assembled Barrett sniper rifle. The thick barrel and the mighty shape gave a strong visual impact, which scared the 4 people. "Fuck, brother, where did you get this big guy?" Chu Haoyan looked at the Barrett in Su Wei's hand and revealed an intoxicated look. If the golden AK was still in his hand, he would definitely exchange it without hesitation. "Don't talk nonsense, have you remembered everything I taught you?" Su Wei knelt on one knee, holding the Barrett in both hands, and put a modified pickup truck of the Red Sleeve Army into the crosshairs. Remember, Chu Haoyan nodded quickly. Along the way, Su Wei taught him all the essentials of shooting. However, theory is theory, and how far he can achieve it depends on his talent and hard work. At this time, the figures of the government army and the Red Sleeve Army were already visible to the naked eye. Bang! Bartlett's heavy gunshots rang out. The heavy machine gunner on the bed of a modified pickup truck was directly torn into 2 pieces. The light steel guard plate that protected the shooter was like paper in front of Bartlett's armor-piercing bullets. Bang! Before the other party could react, Su Wei had already fired the second shot. The heavy machine gunner on the second modified pickup truck was also torn into 2 pieces, and a large piece of the guard plate was missing. The name cannon is well deserved. The sudden attack made both sides stunned. The heavy machine gunner on the third modified pickup truck was more direct. He jumped off the speeding car. Even if he broke his bones, it was better than being beaten into 2 pieces. "Well, this is a ruthless person. Reinforcements have arrived, everyone fight back." The leader of the government army seized this opportunity keenly and shouted loudly in Mananaya. This undoubtedly gave the government army a shot of stimulant, and they turned around and fought back. Damn it, being chased all the way like a grandson, who has ghost fire in his heart. If there's a chance, he must fight back, otherwise he is not a soldier. The Red Sleeves army was panicked, and the leader scolded the machine gunner loudly and asked the substitutes to get in position quickly. Without heavy firepower, these new soldiers are no match for the government army. Bang! Another low gunshot sounded, and the substitute who had just climbed onto the car was shot on the head. The head as big as a watermelon was gone, and a stream of scarlet blood shot straight into the air like a fountain, and then fell like raindrops, dyeing the surrounding area blood red. Ah, what is more terrifying than death is to watch death coming. The huge power of Barrett, acting on people, is simply unbearable to watch, and it scared the surrounding soldiers silly. In this situation, who dares to climb onto the car? Even if the Red Sleeves army leader pointed a gun at him, he would not climb. At this time, the government army had already counterattacked, and bullets were fired like raindrops. The Red Sleeves army was immediately swept down. Retreat, retreat, seeing that the situation was hopeless. The Red Sleeves army leader hurriedly led the way and ran away. The Red Sleeves army, which was so arrogant just now, was defeated in the blink of an eye and was chased and beaten by the government army. Bang! The heavy gunshot rang out again, This time it was not hitting people, but a shot hit the air intake grill of a modified pickup truck. The powerful kinetic energy of the bullet immediately blew up the engine. The driver was so scared that he opened the door and rolled to the ground, then got up and ran away. Bang! In the same position, another modified pickup truck was destroyed. When Su Wei aimed at the third truck, the opponent had already completed half of the U-turn, and the whole truck was lying across the road. Su Wei did not hesitate and pulled the trigger. After a bang, there was a boom. The fuel tank was hit accurately, and the entire pickup truck exploded directly, affecting the surrounding Red Sleeves army. Chapter 218, Cadman. Charge. Looking at the passionate battlefield, Chu Haoyan rushed forward like a chicken blood. Dong Zhao and the other two hurriedly followed. With Su Wei's Barrett in the lead, there was no need to worry. In the end, Su Wei himself felt that it was a bit too cruel to use a cannon to blast people, so he changed to an AK and followed. Even in the continuous shooting mode, Su Wei's accuracy can reach more than 90%, and the Red Sleeves army was beaten to pulp. They ran like the wind, and only regretted that their parents had given them 2 less legs. Half an hour later, an encounter ended with the victory of the government army. Brother, this is Colonel Cadman Rufus Orleans Vanderla Mercury of the government army. He said he wanted to thank us for our help. When the government army was cleaning up the battlefield, Chu Haoyan came over with a general of a Manania government army with an excited look on his face. He could actually remember that long and difficult name, which seemed to be a hidden talent. Su Wei found him familiar. He looked at him more carefully and recognized him immediately. He was the fierce man who led his men to charge into the Red Sleeves army camp that night in the first combat zone. This world is really small. Hello. Perhaps because Chu Haoyan spoke Daksha, Colonel Cadman also spoke Daksha. He stretched out his right hand to Su Wei to show his friendship. In the past 2 years, Manania and Daksha have established diplomatic relations, and many Daksha businessmen have come here to invest. Therefore, Daksha is very popular in Manania, even more than American. Hello, Colonel Cadman. Su Wei stretched out his hand and shook hands with the other party. The cold touch of the Grim Reaper's grip startled Cadman, but he did not make a fuss. People who can use special weapons like Bartlett must be extraordinary. Excuse me, are you from Manania? Cadman asked curiously. Except for Chu Haoyan, who was very familiar with people, the others looked like veterans who had been on the battlefield for a long time, which was rare in Manania. Yes, my name is Paro. They are all my companions. They used to be mercenaries, now they are security guards of Aziazi factory, Su Wei explained. Anyway, there are as many people named Paro in Manania as yaks. I see, no wonder you are so powerful, Cadman suddenly realized. Where are you going? Cadman glanced at the 2 modified off-road vehicles not far away and asked curiously. The latter vehicle was loaded with spare fuel, obviously prepared for long-distance travel. Our boss assigned a task, Su Wei responded simply. Paro, please don't misunderstand, there are Red Sleeves everywhere ahead. I think if possible, we can go together. Cadman looked at Su Wei expectantly. If you can pull these fierce men into your team, your strength will definitely be awesome. Oh, where are you going? Cadman's words made Su Wei stunned. Is it appropriate for you to run around instead of staying in your defense zone? The capital Mugaza, Cadman said with a firm face. As far as I know, the president has been killed. What are you doing there? Who ordered you to do it? Su Wei asked curiously. Now the government of Manania has been destroyed, and the capital has long been ruled by the Red Sleeves army. Wouldn't it be a death wish for such a small number of people to go there? Although the president has been killed, we are still the government army of Manania. We have the obligation and responsibility to eliminate the enemy. No one has given us orders. Now we are all free to act. So, I decided to go to Mugaza to behead the leader of the Red Sleeves army, Quada. Revenge for our president, Cadman said righteously. Hearing him say this, Su Wei and others couldn't help but stand in awe. Regardless of whether Cadman did this for other reasons, just based on this courage, he can be called a hero. I admire you. We also happen to be going to the vicinity of Mugaza. Su Wei nodded, implying that he agreed to Cadman's proposal and went together. Great, I'll get ready now. Cadman was overjoyed and hurried to gather the team. Brother, why should we go with them? Looking at Cadman's receding back, Chu Haoyan couldn't help but ask. This will slow down their speed. Manania can't continue to be in chaos. The best way is to let the government army win this war, Su Wei said thoughtfully. Oh brother, Are you going to help him conquer the country? Why, Chu Haoyan is not stupid. He vaguely heard what Su Wei meant and was immediately surprised. Even if it's for your Longji factory, isn't it okay, if the Red Sleeve Army wins, our Xia country's industry in Meninia will all be in vain? Su Wei smiled faintly. Although I don't understand, what I said is right, let's do whatever you say. Although Chu Haoyan was still a little confused, it didn't prevent him from supporting Su Wei. Establishing a regime, just thinking about it will make a man very excited. It depends on whether this person can be of great use. Everything will be discussed after the task is completed, Su Wei said and glanced at Cadman in the distance. His men had already assembled, and their efficiency was quite good. Understood, brother, Chu Haoyan nodded immediately. Although he didn't know what the mission was, he just followed along and it was done. As long as he followed Lao Lang, he would never be lonely. After that, they set off with Cadman. Due to the large number of soldiers and the serious shortage of vehicles, Chu Haoyan didn't drive fast. But Cadman had his own way. Every time he arrived at a place, he sent soldiers to collect available vehicles and fuel. Before long, hundreds of soldiers got on the cars. There were cars, minibuses, trucks and even an old tractor. They formed a long dragon and drove on the road of Meninia. From a distance, they would think it was a refugee team fleeing, and no one would have thought it was an army. Even so, the soldiers were still talking and laughing, without much decadence. This shows how difficult the government army of Meninia had been in the past. Poverty restricted their development, and even many soldiers didn't know how many times they had their weapons. So much so that after the outbreak of the Red Sleeves army, the government forces were beaten back step by step, largely because of the outdated weapons and equipment. But it was this group of people who were not afraid of the gap in weapons and continued to fight until now. Can this be considered true patriotism? Perhaps no one can answer this question. 2 days later, they finally arrived near the capital of Meninia. During this period, they encountered several small-scale battles, but under the command of Cadman, they quickly wiped out the small forces of the Red Sleeves army. It brought them rich ammunition supplies. Of course, Su Wei's contribution is also indispensable. The team with snipers in charge naturally has a greatly increased chance of winning. In addition, it was Su Wei who hacked into the U.S. satellite and provided detailed satellite maps, which allowed him to avoid the main force of the Red Sleeves army and drive straight in through the cracks. Chapter 219 Capture. Colonel Cadman, we say goodbye now. In the night, at a fork in the road more than 100 kilometers away from the capital Mugaza, Su Wei got off the car and said goodbye to Cadman. The capital Mugaza is in the northwest, and the Klittenberg Biological Company they are going to is in the north. Brother, take care. Cadman held Su Wei's hand tightly, reluctant to leave. If there were a sniper like Su Wei, it would be easy to assassinate the leader of the Red Sleeve army, Quada. What a pity. Take care. There were no extra words, and the two sides went in different directions. During the war, no one knew how long they could live. Especially for a suicide attack like Cadman, he might stay in Mugaza forever. Brother, Lauka, can it succeed? On the way, Chu Haoyan asked with a hint of sadness. After 2 days of getting along, they have a stronger friendship. Maybe, this kind of thing depends on God's will, Su Wei answered casually. It can't be said that Cadman narrowly escaped death. Oh, Chu Haoyan was silent. In fact, he knew the consequences. It was just that Su Wei was very important in his mind. If he said it could work, then it would definitely work. There was at least a little psychological comfort, right? There was an unprecedented short silence. Brother, in the silence, Chu Haoyan called Su Wei again. What's wrong again? Su Wei pulled his eyes back from the scenery flying outside the window and looked at Chu Haoyan with a face full of resentment. I really didn't expect that this kid would be so sentimental for Cadman. If you don't know, you would think that the two of them are having an affair? By the way, can this black color fade away? It's been 3 days. 3 days. It's still so pure and so black. The only benefit is that it makes the teeth look extra white. Yes, it can. But the effect of the medicine should last longer. Su Wei almost choked on his saliva. Sorry, I misunderstood. It turns out that this kid is resentful about this. How long will it take? Chu Haoyan asked. It's been 3 days, and the color hasn't faded at all. He even suspected that Su Wei did it on purpose. Almost there, almost there. By the way, I'll take a nap first. Call me when we get there, Su Wei said perfunctorily with a guilty conscience. Then he fell asleep, not giving Chu Haoyan a chance to ask. Chu Haoyan had no choice but to drive all the way to a small town called Naganjing. This is the place Su Wei found through satellite maps, the closest resting place to the Krittenberg Biological Company. Further ahead is the area controlled by the Krittenberg Biological Company, which has a large number of detectors and security personnel. These were all discovered by Su Wei through the American satellite. Judging from the security level alone, it is definitely not an ordinary biological company. "Brother, we're here, Chu Haoyan shouted just as Su Wei was taking a nap. Su Wei sat up and looked at this simple and dilapidated town through the car window. There were no signs of war, which showed that no one had lived here before the war. As for when? What was the reason? That is unknown. Drive the car in and hide, Su Wei said hurriedly. The environment here made him very satisfied, and it was convenient for him to operate next. Under Su Wei's command, Chu Haoyan drove the car to the back of a larger house. After getting off the car, he covered the car with fallen old things. Dong Zhao and the other two ran out, cleaned up the wheel marks and footprints, and then hid in the house. Su Wei chiseled a small hole in the earth wall. From this side, the outline of the Krittenberg Biological Company can be seen. With a high-powered telescope, some subtle things can be observed. This one looked for a whole morning. Except that people need to swipe their cards and verify their information when entering and leaving, there is nothing unusual. Just when Su Wei was about to make further attempts, an off-road vehicle drove out from the biological company and came straight here. Hey, it's alive. Su Wei stared at the off-road vehicle that was getting closer and closer, and kicked Chu Haoyan who was sleeping soundly on the ground. Huh? Where is it? Brother, Chu Haoyan sat up immediately. Dong Zhao and the other two followed and surrounded him. The off-road vehicle was seen heading straight for the town of Naganjing. It first circled the town, and then drove the car in the town. It was a performance of speed and passion. The operation was as fierce as a tiger, but the result was stupid. The driver was so angry that he cursed after hitting obstacles one after another. Finally, the car happened to stop next to the big house where Su Wei and his friends were hiding. Fuck, this is a stupid day, the driver got out of the car cursing. He was a white man in his 30s, wearing a camouflage training uniform and carrying a gun. After getting off the car, the white man kicked the rear of the car he hit with his foot, and then shushed to the corner of the wall. After Su Wei confirmed that there was no one in the car, he immediately gestured to Dong Zhao and the other two. The four of them quietly lurked out. As for Chu Haoyan, he could only stay in the house and watch. It was obviously not the first time that the white man did this. He shushed and hummed happily. Little did they know that danger had quietly arrived. Hong Daniu had quietly moved behind him and knocked him unconscious with a knife. Afterwards, Ma Qiang was in charge of keeping watch. Dong Zhao and Hong Daniu carried the white man into the house. A bottle of cold water was poured on the white man's face, and the cold stimulation woke him up slowly. When he saw the situation clearly, he was stunned. He had been tied up on a chair, and there were four masked black men standing in front of him. If it wasn't broad daylight, he would have thought he saw a ghost. Fuck, come on, no matter who you are, you'd better let me go immediately, otherwise, you will regret it. After the white man woke up, he roared at several people. He had become a prisoner, but he still felt superior. I don't know who gave him the courage. Fish Liang? Fuck, more arrogant than me, what are you arrogant about? Chu Haoyan was the first to be unable to hold back, and rushed up to the white man and slapped him in the face. As someone who had studied abroad, he naturally understood what the white man was saying. Fuck, oil, I'm going to kill you. The white man had never suffered such humiliation before, and he glared at Chu Haoyan with his eyes, saying viciously, "Oh, Mom, I'm so scared." Chu Haoyan's fluent American language made the white man very angry. Unfortunately, his hands and feet were tied, so it was difficult to move. Why waste your words with him? Just let him confess, seeing that Chu Haoyan's American language was not bad. Su Wei simply gave him the task of interrogation. Just wait and see, brother. Chu Haoyan immediately showed an extremely perverted look, and then walked towards the white man with a smirk. Don't come over here. This was the inner monologue of the white man at this moment. Chapter 220 Urinary Escape. Unexpectedly, the white man was stubborn. No matter how he was beaten, he didn't even say a word about his identity. He was a real man. But would it work? Of course not. For Su Wei, it was just a matter of a bottle of medicine. Wasteland product, truth serum potion, check it out. Su-wei took out a lavender dream potion and fed it to the white man. The man's pupils immediately turned a strange lavender. He told everything he was asked, even how many times he wet the bed when he was a child. The effect of the medicine almost scared Chu Haoyan silly. He swore in his heart that he would never eat anything Su-wei gave him in the future if he could avoid it. Oh, the man's name is Williams, 38 years old, and his job is a security guard at Crittenberg Biological Company. His daily job is to patrol around the factory. Of course, this is only on the surface. In fact, he's a retired U.S. Marine, responsible for protecting the biological company from foreign invasion. In order to ensure that everything is foolproof, they used various means to drive away other people within a few miles around the company. And they patrol the designated area every day to prevent agents from other countries from sneaking in. He has been doing this kind of work for 3 years. Unexpectedly, when he got out of the car to urinate today, he was hit by a club. Old Wolf, the communicator in the car is ringing. At this moment, Ma Kang's voice came. I'll go and see. Su-wei rushed out immediately. Squeaky, squeaky, William, please reply if you receive it, Huo Weiner. Squeaky, squeaky. When he came to the cab, he heard a call from the communicator inside. Su-wei first said a sentence to his mobile phone, then pointed the mobile phone to the communicator and pressed the switch. Received, Huo Weiner. At the same time, the same voice as Williams came from the mobile phone. Just now, Su-wei recorded Williams' voice with artificial intelligence, and now he can use artificial intelligence to imitate Williams' voice. William, how is the weather today? The voice of inquiry came from the communicator again. Damn it, they even used code words. Same as usual, Su-wei made a quick decision, betting that they were asking about a patrol situation, not really asking about the weather. Oh my god. Have a nice trip. The communicator fell silent. Huh? Su-wei and Ma Kang couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Finally, they got away with it. Next, Su-wei questioned Williams about some details in detail, and then knocked him out again. Finally, in the shocked eyes of Chu Horn and others, Su-wei used his face-changing skills again and turned into Williams's appearance. Then put on his clothes and equipment, and they looked exactly like they were carved from the same mold. You guys stay here, I'll go check the situation first, Su-wei said as he got on Williams' off-road vehicle. There was a pair of sunglasses in the car, so Su-wei asked the Phantom Demon to scan it and changed into the same appearance. This way, it wouldn't be abrupt to bring the Phantom Demon with him. Brother, take it easy, don't force yourself if you really can't do it, Chu Horn stood next to the car and said to Su-wei with some concern. Su-wei couldn't help but feel touched. This disciple's teaching was not in vain. We are still black. You must not get into trouble. Otherwise, who can we go to for justice? Right, Chu Haoyan continued. Get lost. Su-wei's face turned black in an instant. This guy is still the familiar prodigal. After saying that, Su-wei stepped on the accelerator and rushed out. Chu Haoyan was left alone in the yellow dust. Cough 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 too. Su-wei first drove the car out for a ride, and then Su-wei drove towards Cliftonburg Biotechnology Company in such a swagger. With Williams Pass, Su-wei entered the gate unimpeded. Seeing a row of SUVs of the same model, Su-wei drove the car directly over and parked it. After getting off the car, he walked towards the office area along the route described by Williams. Hi, William. At this time, a white guy caught up and greeted Su-wei enthusiastically. Hi. Su-wei quickly covered his mouth with his hand, and then played the pre-recorded voice with his mind. Shit, I have to ask old G to get a voice changer when I get back, like some elementary school student, so that the disguise will be more perfect. How did you get today? The young man was very talkative and ignored Su-wei's deliberate indifference. Su-wei had to continue the awkward chat? Oh, what's wrong? Are you sick? The young man asked curiously. No, I'm Yu Fan Yin. 3 pills. Su-wei controlled the artificial intelligence, and one word after another popped out. There was no way, if I said too much, I might be exposed. The young man was confused. Was it necessary to be so perfunctory? Bye, Senyu. Su-wei took the opportunity to say goodbye. The young man was left alone, disheveled in the wind. Fortunately, Williams was a little weird on weekdays. Although the young man was a little surprised, he didn't doubt anything. He shook his head awkwardly and continued to move forward. Speaking of Su-wei, He walked quickly all the way and came straight to the office building. Along the way, someone greeted him, and he only responded with hi, pretending to be in a hurry. Everyone thought he was in a hurry, so they didn't pay much attention. Hi, William. Kamagiro, who knows? As soon as he entered the lobby of the office building, a group of white men gathered there chatting about something. When they saw Su-wei coming in, they immediately greeted him warmly. Damn. The situation is not good. Su-wei was anxious. Would he fail at the last minute? Alice. Got it. At this moment, his side glance swept to the bathroom next to him. Shrink Rui. Su-wei hurriedly ran into the bathroom, holding his stomach. There was a burst of laughter behind him, which obviously did not arouse the suspicion of those people. Huh? In the bathroom, Su-wei secretly breathed a sigh of relief. He didn't expect that he could succeed in urinating. It was really God's help. After staying in the bathroom patiently for a few minutes, the chatter outside gradually disappeared, and it was estimated that they had dispersed. Just when Su-wei was about to go out, a cleaning staff in blue work clothes walked in. Perhaps it was because he had stayed in this closed environment for a long time, with a rigid face, dull eyes, and a numb look. Hey. This is good. Su-wei's eyes rolled, and he immediately came up with a plan. He pretended to finish the job and leave, but when he passed behind the cleaning staff, he suddenly raised his knife and knocked the other person unconscious. He quickly changed into the cleaning staff's clothes and scanned the other person's face with a magic. In a blink of an eye, Su-wei turned into a cleaning staff. After tying him up and sealing his mouth, he threw him into the innermost compartment, locked the door with a key, and hung a sign saying out of order for repair. Whether he lives or dies depends on his luck. After doing all this, Su-wei pushed a cleaning cart and walked out of the bathroom. Chapter 221 Springboard. The hall was quiet, and the crowd had dispersed. Su-wei was pushing a cleaning cart and wandering around. This identity was indeed much more convenient than William's. At least, Su-wei went through the toilets on the upper and lower floors, and no one said anything. Hey. Wait. Just when Su-wei found nothing, a blonde beauty in a professional suit called him. Su-wei looked at the other person woodenly. Something spilled in the office, come and clean it up, the blonde beauty said in an imperative tone. She was used to the look of the cleaning staff. In her eyes, these people were lowly beings. She even felt that talking to them was cheap. Drowned, Su-wei responded in a low voice, and then followed the blonde beauty into an office. The office environment here is quite good, with bright windows and clean desks, and central air conditioning. In this barren land, it is like a fairyland. More than a dozen people work together, but it doesn't feel crowded. There are also enough rest areas and exercise areas reserved, which shows how luxurious it is. Hurry up, I still have a lot of work to do, you can't be held responsible for the delay. The blonde took Su-wei to her desk and pointed at the mess on the desk. It was as if Su-wei had caused all this. Su-wei nodded and cleaned up neatly. It turned out that the woman accidentally knocked over a cup of milk tea on the table, splashing everywhere. Fortunately, it did not cause a short circuit in the computer. First, absorb the main part with a paper towel, then wipe the residue with a dry towel, and finally clean it with a slightly damp towel. But when wiping the computer host, Su-wei deliberately touched the power supply. Squeak. The computer screen went black instantly. You lowly bastard, what have you done? The blonde was instantly furious, pointing at Su-wei and cursing. The others looked up and returned to their own business, looking indifferent. Saorui, Su-wei pretended to be panicked, moving his hands around on the computer, as if he was trying his best to make up for his mistake. In a panic, an inconspicuous little thing was inserted into the data interface behind the host. Get out, the blonde woman pushed Su-wei away roughly, looked at the computer, and then pressed the power button. Buzz! The computer started up normally, but the disk's time was less than 1 second longer than usual. This abnormality naturally did not attract the woman's attention. After seeing that everything was normal, the blonde woman breathed a sigh of relief. Get out. Clumsy guy, I don't want to see you for another second, the blonde woman pointed at Su-wei and said viciously. Saorui, Su-wei said and left the office. But at the moment of leaving, Su-wei smiled. Then, he ran to the nearest bathroom. After putting the words "do not use" during cleaning on the door, Su-wei hid in the bathroom and let the artificial intelligence search. Soon found the connector plugged into the blonde's computer. It was prepared for the convenience of connecting to the computer at home, but it came in handy here unexpectedly. Crittenberg Biotechnology uses an internal network, so Su-Wei could not invade their system before. He was worried that the blonde's computer would become a springboard for artificial intelligence to invade. Soon, all the internal information of the biological company was stolen. However, most of the files were useless and there was no clue. But according to the principle that a thief never leaves empty-handed, he would certainly not let go of what he could get. Even if he didn't need it, he could sell it to others to make generic drugs. In short, it was right to make life difficult for the Americans. After more than an hour, Su-Wei finally found clues in the massive amount of files. There is a waste material warehouse in the factory area, and the authority is set to the highest level because it stores radioactive materials. This seems reasonable. But after excluding all possibilities, the impossible becomes possible. So Su-Wei immediately decided to go to the waste material warehouse to investigate. Taking off the cleaning clothes, Su-Wei climbed out of the bathroom window to the outside of the building. Artificial intelligence has taken over the monitoring system of the entire factory. Wherever he appears, the camera will be automatically blocked. Not only that, the monitoring system has also become the eyes of artificial intelligence, helping Su-Wei plan a safe path so that he can go directly to the waste material warehouse without worry. After climbing over the eaves and walls, Su-Wei finally saw the waste warehouse painted yellow. There was a huge skull logo painted on the door, indicating how dangerous it was inside. At this time, a warning sounded in the headset. Su-Wei quickly hid behind a beam and used the death grip to dig his fingers into the wall. The whole person was like a bat, hanging upside down on the ceiling of the awning. Almost at the same time, a patrol team came over with a hound. Woof woof, the hound became restless, but soon calmed down, sniffed around in confusion, and walked forward again. The patrol team also followed and continued to move forward. Oh my god, fortunately, brother is not an ordinary man, Su-Wei said as he put away the hidden odor potion in his hand, and then climbed towards the window of the waste warehouse. The window of the warehouse was very high, almost touching the ceiling. Su-Wei carefully poked his head inside. Because there was no internal camera of the waste warehouse in the factory's monitoring system, he could not see what was going on inside. When Su-Wei poked his head, he found that someone was transporting materials inside. Several people were wearing thick black protective clothing, and they used a powered forklift to transport piles of tightly packed things to a platform. Then they pressed a switch on the wall. The platform slowly descended underground, and after the hatch closed automatically, several people left the waste material warehouse. After seeing several people moving away from the surveillance, Su-Wei prepared to sneak in. But remembering that they were all wearing thick protective clothing, Su-Wei hesitated. Is there really radiation? I wonder if the enhanced body can withstand it? He hasn't left any descendants yet? What if there is a chance? Su-Wei couldn't help but feel scared when he thought about it. Hey. Got it. Su-Wei, who was anxiously scratching his head, suddenly had an idea. After finding a suitable place, Su-Wei took out a set of power armor from the space. These war weapons were designed to resist nuclear radiation. Su-Wei originally put them in the space as a collection, but he didn't expect them to be of great use here. This is a set of power armor that has not been parasitized by the Overlord, and the energy battery inside has been replaced with a new one. After connecting to the smart bracelet, it can be controlled at will. Except for the helmet, it was almost one touch to put on and take off. A few seconds later, Su-Wei was wearing the power armor, and when he was motionless, he looked like a steel sculpture. Chapter 222 Hunting Time. Buzz. Su-Wei put on the helmet, and the power armor started immediately. The panoramic visualization helmet makes people feel like they are not wearing it. The full set of armor, each joint has a power system. Not only can it move freely, but also can perform actions far beyond ordinary people. For example, when jumping, in the full power state, one jump is nearly 10 meters. The alloy armor is enough to resist conventional kinetic energy bullets, and it is a 360-degree defense without dead angles. In terms of weapons, this power armor is equipped with no less than 10 types. The main weapon is a small laser launcher embedded in the arm armor. The secondary weapon is a retractable super alloy chainsaw sword. There are also plasma cutting daggers, alloy swords, high-frequency electric shotguns, flash bombs, smoke bombs, high-explosive cluster bombs, etc. After getting familiar with the place for a few minutes, Su-Wei easily climbed into the waste material warehouse through the window. Wow! As soon as Su-Wei landed, The lighting in the warehouse turned on automatically. I checked the radiation index at the first time, and fortunately everything was normal. Then, Su-Wei found the hatch for lifting cargo. Isn't this just the entrance to the basement where nuclear waste is stored? Looking at the tightly closed hatch, Su-Wei couldn't help thinking so. But since he was here, how could he feel at ease if he didn't go down and take a look? So Su-Wei glanced around and saw several piles of goods in the same packaging, so he moved them directly to the elevator hatch. He felt that even without reinforcement, he could easily move these tons of things with the help of the power armor. Super awesome. After getting ready, Su-Wei ran to press the switch. The tightly closed hatch slowly opened, revealing a liftable platform. As expected, there was an upward-looking camera installed in the corner of the platform. However, it was just blocked by the goods at this time, and Su-Wei's figure could not be seen. At the same time, someone in a monitoring room underground saw this scene. What? Hasn't today's quantity been transported? Why is there more? A white man in a white coat shouted in surprise. Because from the monitoring screen here, he happened to see the piles of things that Su-Wei had piled up. Who cares? Just put it down, maybe the supervisor has increased the amount, a colleague said while leisurely drinking coffee. In their concept, no enemy will invade from here. Because the elevator itself is a death row. Once you enter, don't think about getting out. At this time, the indicator light of loading completion lights up, indicating that Su-Wei has moved the goods onto the platform and pressed the switch. That's right, the man didn't think much about it, stretched out his hand and pressed a button, and the elevator slowly fell. What they didn't know was that there was a black figure behind the goods. It was Su-Wei wearing power armor. As the elevator descended, the hatch above the head closed, forming an enclosed space. Fortunately, the power armor has a life support system and is not afraid of any environment. Crash! When the elevator swung, a pile of things fell to the ground and hit the camera in the corner. With a sizzle, the surveillance screen suddenly turned into snowflakes. Oh, my God! Why did this happen? The white man in charge of monitoring suddenly shouted in annoyance. What's wrong with you? A colleague who was drinking coffee nearby asked impatiently. Just now I saw the cargo collapse and crush the camera, this time I must complain to those guys. They can't even stack things properly. The white man slammed the table with an angry face and roared. Okay, you have to make sure you won't be punished by your supervisor first. Let's find someone to fix the camera first. The colleague still had a calm expression, as if nothing could arouse his interest. Fuck. After saying that, the white man cursed and went to find the repairman. At the same time, Su-Wei came to the camera, pulled out the plasma cutting dagger in the interlayer of the calf armor, and cut a hole in the platform near the camera. Although the platform is made of steel, it is as easy as cutting tofu in front of the plasma cutting dagger. Then, Su-Wei reached under the platform floor and pulled out a wire, which is the signal line of the camera. Connect it to the connector, and artificial intelligence can immediately invade the system connected to it. Sure enough, a large amount of data emerged instantly, proving that there is definitely another system underground. Su-Wei was immediately delighted. The cargo that just collapsed was certainly not an accident, but the result of Su-Wei's instigation. Moreover, he seized the opportunity to destroy the camera, making it look like an accident. More than 10 minutes later, the elevator was still descending, and it was initially estimated that it had reached more than 100 meters underground. At this time, the artificial intelligence had completed the invasion and copied the data that Su-Wei wanted. It turned out that inhumane virus experiments were being carried out here, and living people were directly used as experimental subjects. The process was outrageous. Su-Wei was chilled by the sight. These scumbags are not worthy of being called human beings. Boom. At this moment, the elevator finally reached the end and stopped. A wall slowly cracked from it. Oh, God, the maintenance personnel and the white man in charge of monitoring saw an unforgettable scene. A sci-fi humanoid machine stood on the platform of the elevator, exuding an unparalleled chill. Zilla. Without saying a word, Su-Wei raised his hand and shot out 2 electric beams. The high-frequency electric shotgun was directly set to the lethal power. The 2 men were electrocuted into charcoal before they could even make a sound. Crack! The heavy alloy boot stepped on the black charcoal, making a crisp sound like a biscuit. What happened here cannot be seen on the surveillance. Because artificial intelligence has taken over the surveillance system here, shielding the enemy while providing Su-Wei with a god's vision. Bang! The armor on the back of the power armor cracked, and a knife handle popped out from the interlayer. Su Wei pulled out the sword with his backhand, and then swung it casually. The folded alloy sword suddenly became more than 1 meter long, emitting a cold light under the light. Let's start, hunting time. Under the vision provided by artificial intelligence, Su Wei rushed to the monitoring room first and cut a colleague who was still drinking coffee in half with a knife. The expression on his face was frozen in surprise and fear, and finally it was no longer so indifferent and indifferent. The entire underground laboratory is a U-shaped building, with only one road leading to the core area in the middle. Su Wei is not in a hurry. Starting from the monitoring room, kill all the beasts in the outer frame first. Next, the underground laboratory turned into the 18th level of hell in a second. After the artificial intelligence took over the system, the electronic locks were useless to Su Wei, but to those researchers, they were just seals on the cage, trapping them inside. Even if the alarm button was pressed, there was no response. They could only wait in despair for the arrival of Su Wei, who is like a god of death. At this moment, they tasted the pain of the experimenters. So helpless, so scared, so desperate. Soon, dozens of laboratories in the outer circle, large and small, were slaughtered one by Su Wei. Chapter 223, Death Struggle. General, something terrible has happened. The base system has been hacked and all permissions have been modified. We can't get in touch with the outside world now. Moreover, the other party has activated the ultimate mode and locked all channels. Just as Su Wei was killing chickens and dogs, someone in the middle core area of the underground laboratory finally noticed something unusual. The soldier who is responsible for reporting when Jack and Wilson died ran to the independent office in the core area. What did you say? Why are you reporting now? The general jumped up in surprise when he heard this. General, I was just about to go outside to get some information, but I couldn't open the door, so I found something unusual. Facing the general's roar, the soldier replied in a low voice. Waste, the general roared like a dragon. Doesn't this prove his incompetence even more? He didn't even know when the enemy made a move. Guards. Guards, where are our guards? The general tried to suppress the anger in his chest and asked anxiously. No contact, General, we are like deaf and blind now, the other side knows nothing, the soldier replied with a pale face, because the general exuded a terrifying aura. Waste, gather all combatants, follow me. The general kicked the table in front of him with a flying foot. Then he walked out with a step that didn't recognize any relatives. Yes, General, the soldier hurriedly ran out. Woo woo woo, the soldier found a handheld loudspeaker from somewhere, and a shrill alarm sounded from it. There was no way, in an emergency, we could only make do with it. Hearing the alarm, the people who were originally at a loss began to run. The researchers ran to the designated shelter. The combatants ran to the designated assembly point, ready to fight the enemy to the death. General, all combatants have been assembled. In front of the gate leading to the outside, the soldier who sounded the alarm ran to report to the gloomy general. Break the door. The general glanced at the dozens of people who had gathered and spat out 2 words coldly. Most of these people were ordinary people, with only one 5-man biochemical soldier team. Because a large number of teams were deployed on the periphery, they never expected that the enemy would suddenly appear in sight and take over the base system without knowing it, making it impossible for them to notify the outside world. The only way now was to break out, which would give them a glimmer of hope. Bang bang bang. A big biochemical soldier began to knock on the door. In order to prevent foreign invasion, a super thick alloy door was specially customized. Unexpectedly, the enemy did not stop it, but trapped himself inside. Roar. Roar. The other 2 powerful biochemical soldiers also ran over to help. There were dents on the heavy alloy door, but it was so stubborn that it could not stand up. Bang bang bang. The sound of knocking on the door continued. At this time, Su Wei had killed all the experimenters and guards outside and came to the gate to the core area. In addition to the enemy's blood, the power armor also had some traces of bullet impact, but they were just traces. This not only did not cause any substantial damage, but also gave the armor a different kind of beauty, full of gunpowder smoke. Haha, is this considered a dying struggle? Su Wei stopped as he looked at the gradually deformed door. He wanted the artificial intelligence to open the door, but was told that it was severely deformed and could not be opened. Then he could only wait for the people inside to rush out and die. So, Su Wei held the alloy sword in both hands and stood quietly in front of the door waiting. Bang 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 clang. Finally, the heavy alloy door was knocked down, revealing a severely deformed door frame. Hiss. Everyone inside, including the generals who had been on the battlefield for a long time, couldn't help but gasp. What did they see? A humanoid armor stood in front. The surface was covered with blood, and it was still flowing down. The alloy sword, more than 1 meter long, was bright and eye-catching. What is it? Did aliens invade the surface? The air suddenly became very quiet. In the corridor outside, there was no sound, only the lights flickered and made arcing sounds. Is it the only one? Everyone was even more shocked. If it was true, then the combat power of this thing was too terrifying. Although there were no reinforced soldiers outside, there were hundreds of battle-hardened Marines, but none of them survived. The general had a complicated and incomprehensible look on his face. He had thought of many scenes, but he never thought it would be like this. "Welcome to hell," Su Wei said in American with a bad taste. Under the rendering of the loudspeaker on the helmet, it echoed, and with the bloody walls and ground around, it was like hell. "Kill him," the general shouted sharply. At this moment, he could be sure that the other party was a human. Bang bang bang. The remaining Marines shot at Su Wei one after another, and the dense bullets were like a torrential rain, impenetrable. Force field shield. Su Wei stretched out his left hand and spread his 5 fingers. A light blue light shield appeared immediately, the size of a door panel, perfectly covering the armor. Although the armor could withstand it, Su Wei did not want to return it to the factory for painting, so it naturally needed protection. Bang, bang, bang. Countless bullets hit the light shield, splashing layers of ripples. But the kinetic energy was lost, and after staying in the air for a few seconds, it fell freely and fell on the ground in front of Su Wei's feet. Soon, a pile of bullets piled up like a small mountain. Such a strange phenomenon surprised the Marines so much that they forgot to change the magazine. Energy weapons? Isn't this something that still exists in theory? Is he really an alien? Invincible. This concept took root and spread in the hearts of the Marines, causing a devastating blow to their beliefs. The general's pupils shrank even more. This is the first time he has seen such powerful technology. Where did he come from? Why did he attack the Doomsday base? Countless thoughts flashed through his mind. Tyrant, let's go together. As the commander, the general made a decision while thinking and ordered the team of biochemical soldiers. Yes, General, roar. The big biochemical soldier who first hit the door roared and rushed up. The other 4 teammates followed closely. They launched a siege on Su Wei. Su Wei chopped the big knife in his hand directly at the big tyrant. With the help of the armor, the knife made a sound of tearing the air. The tyrant was not afraid of fighting and raised his right arm to hit the blade. Bang! A piercing sonic boom made people's eardrums hurt. The alloy knife in Su Wei's hand was actually blocked. It turned out that the tyrant was wearing a heavy alloy armor under his clothes. Just now, he used the arm guard to hold the blade. Although his right arm was in great pain, the tyrant also seized the opportunity and swung his left fist to hit Su Wei's chest. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 224 I Am Willing. HMPH, get out. Su Wei did not give in. He increased his strength and continued to chop. The tyrant's heavy arm guard cracked and shattered in the next moment. The piercing blade cut into the flesh. The stinging pain made the tyrant shudder. The offensive collapsed instantly, and in order to save his arm, the tyrant was so scared that he quickly retreated. But how could Su Wei let him do what he wanted? He chased after him like a shadow. Fortunately, the tyrant's teammates arrived in time, so Su Wei temporarily gave up the pursuit. Rick, the general who was watching the battle suddenly said. General, the soldier who sounded the alarm came over immediately. Go destroy all the data, remember, all. The general stared at the battle in front of him, and his voice revealed an extreme coldness. Yes, Rick immediately accepted the order, but his eyes couldn't help but reveal a trace of horror. The general emphasized all, which means not only the data stored on the host, but also the data stored in the human brain. In other words, all the people involved in the research must die. Watching Rick lead his men away, Su Wei was not moved at all. This made the general more confused. The other party didn't come for the test data? Then why did he come? Haha, old man, don't waste your time. My purpose for coming here today is very simple, just to kill you all, Su Wei said to the general after repelling the enemy with one move. 1 against 5, but he was not at a disadvantage at all. Why? The general suppressed his anger and asked coldly. He hoped to get as much information as possible from the other party. After all, this level of armor and weapons that look like force field shields are enough to threaten the international status of the United States. Have you heard of Liu from Daxia? Su Wei suddenly asked. Huh? The general nodded suspiciously, and couldn't help but feel a sense of horror in his heart. Could it be that the other party is from Daxia? If it is true, it will be a big trouble. Do you know that he wrote a book called Tao Te Ching? Su Wei asked again. Huh? The general continued to nod suspiciously, and his mind was trying hard to recall the information about this Daxia classic. Is the other party hinting that the experiment here is unethical? The general's brows tightened a little more. Then do you know why he wrote the Tao Te Ching? Su Wei continued to ask seriously. I don't know, the general shook his head and said, feeling a little uneasy in his heart, always feeling that this person was brewing some big conspiracy, but in order to obtain more information, he could only force himself to endure. Because I am willing, Su Wei raised his hand and pointed the knife directly at the general, and then said word by word. Many people didn't understand what Su Wei meant, but the general was the commander-in-chief. The Doomsday virus was originally developed for Daxia, so he had a deep understanding of Daxia, including Daxia's culture. So when Su Wei said I am willing, he knew he was fooled. An uncontrollable anger rose from his chest and rushed straight to his brain. Attack! The general's eyes were red, and an extremely dangerous aura burst out of his body. Waves that were invisible to the naked eye came from the general's head, spread into the air, and rushed straight towards Su Wei. Roar! Tyrant and his men charged again, cooperating with the general's mental attack, ready to give Su Wei a fatal blow. When the ripples hit, Su Wei suddenly felt dizzy, and his eyelids were as heavy as if they were filled with lead, as if he would fall asleep in the next second. Oh no, this guy is a mental alien, Su Wei couldn't help but be shocked. This kind of invisible and intangible attack makes people hard to defend against. Just when Su Wei was about to grit his teeth and insist on giving it a try, a coolness surged from the depths of his mind, and all the discomfort disappeared instantly, even making Su Wei more energetic. It was the result of mental strength enhancement. Su Wei was overjoyed. It seems that the contribution of the red-eyed zombie is still quite useful. At this time, the tyrant's attack had come to the front, and his fist as big as a casserole was bombarding Su Wei's head, with a faint sound, which showed his strong power. Humph, you are still a little tender when it comes to strength compared with me. 8 Extreme collapse. Su Wei put away his sword, and his left fist burst out and bombarded the tyrant's fist. Bang! A crashing sound that made the back of the teeth sore and the scalp tingle. Crack! The tyrant, who was always known for his strength, looked at his twisted and deformed arm in disbelief. After a while, the tyrant was tortured by the severe pain and cried out. But then it stopped abruptly, because the alloy sword had quickly slashed across his neck, and a huge head flew up and fell heavily in front of the general. Just like that, the tyrant, a generation of biochemical soldiers, ended up being beheaded. The other teammates were scared and hurriedly braked. Just kidding. The battle tank was killed in seconds, and the opponent was not only full of blood, but also had a double shield. Aren't they looking for death if they go up with a few fragile skins? But Su Wei didn't intend to let them go. He pushed the ground with his feet and ejected. With the help of the power system, he was as fast as lightning. The alloy sword in his hand was flying, and the 4 comrades of the tyrant followed suit. 4 big heads rolled to both sides of the tyrant's head. Well, the most important thing for a family is to be neat and tidy. The group of Marines were immediately frightened. What kind of monster was in front of them? Invulnerable to swords and guns, and extremely powerful, it was simply a devil from hell. At this time, the general was completely panicked. The mental attack that had always been effective was actually ineffective. How could a control mage fight a warrior with full resistance? Rick! Start the self-destruct program. The general turned around and ran, shouting loudly as he ran. This might be the only way. The miserable wails of the Marines came from behind. Needless to say, Su Wei had already killed them with an alloy sword. The general was even faster. General! Rick ran over with blood all over his face, and several Marines behind him also had blood on their collars. Rick, start the self-destruct program quickly. The general was already panting a little, and the short distance consumed all his strength. which showed how desperate he was. "General, the system is out of control, and we can't issue orders," Rick said with a look of disappointment. "Then turn it on manually, quickly." "It has to be fast," the general shouted angrily. He knew that those Marines could not hold out for much longer. "Yes, General." Rick immediately took the lead and rushed to the core. What caught his eye was a row of large databases that had been blown up. Rick and his team had no way to start the deletion command, so they could only use violent deletion. Little did they know that the data inside had already been copied by Suwei's artificial intelligence. Passing through the computer room, they came to a seemingly inconspicuous room, which contained the energy station of the entire underground base, a small nuclear reactor. As long as a few control rods were manually destroyed, the reactor would explode, leading to the destruction of the entire underground base. Chapter 225 Look, UFO. Bang, bang, bang. When the Marines opened the door, a storm of metal came, instantly turning several Marines who were unable to dodge into sieves. "General, the close defense system has been activated," Rick shouted in fear behind the bunker. He didn't dare to show his HUD now, because as long as the system detects the target, the dozens of Gatling guns installed inside will fire wildly, directly eliminating the approaching threat. This is a defense system designed to protect the reactor. Since it was installed and tested, it has never been activated once in more than 10 years. Unexpectedly, it became a nightmare for the general and others in the end. "Fuck, God, are you asleep?" the general couldn't help but curse. But deep underground 100 meters, it can only be said that calling to the sky and the earth is useless. Crack, crack. A sound of metal touching the ground came. Although the rhythm was not fast, each time it seemed to step on everyone's heart, constantly filing the depressing atmosphere. "Fuck, how did he find this place so quickly?" someone complained in a trembling voice. "Monitoring system, he must be able to see the images in the monitoring system." Rick pointed at the camera on the wall and suddenly realized it. Since the other party could hack into the system, the monitoring system must not be spared. If they let it go, it would become a monitoring system for them. Bang bang bang. The Marines angrily shot and destroyed all the cameras they could see. Unfortunately, this can only be regarded as a last resort. It's too late. Snap. Snap. The sound of metal boot stomping has reached the door of the computer room. "Use grenades." The general looked like he was dying. Drowned. Rick and others immediately took out the grenades on their bodies, pulled out the pull rings, and threw them all into the computer room. Boom. Boom. The explosions continued, and it felt like the ground was shaking slightly. It was not until all the grenades were thrown that Rick and others stopped and looked at the direction of the computer room with a nervous look on their faces. Snap. However, the stomping sound that represented death sounded clearly after the explosion. The shadow of death instantly enveloped everyone. A black figure walked out of the fire and smoke of the explosion. The blood on the armor dried and scabbed directly, leaving traces of fire burning, making it look even wilder. Although the face in the helmet could not be seen, everyone could feel that the other party was staring at them. "Come on. Kill me, fuck. Go." Facing the suffocating death gaze, the general suddenly exploded and shouted at Suwei with all his might. "Oh Pit, as you wish, repent for the sins you have committed." Suwei raised his foot and rushed up. Except for the tyrant who could withstand a few hits, the others were no match for Suwei. Kill. Suddenly, something strange happened. Rick and others who were originally in despair and waiting to die suddenly burst out with infinite fighting power, threw away their guns, and rushed towards Suwei with bare hands. Damn. What's going on? Suwei couldn't help but be stunned. Are these people scared silly? But then, the general ran behind Suwei like a fly. It turned out that he knew that mental attacks were ineffective against Suwei, so he used them on Rick and others, causing them to burn their life potential and go berserk. He used this to entangle Suwei. And he rushed towards the emergency escape that only he knew. He had never intended to die with Suwei. The purpose of launching a nuclear explosion was only to destroy and attack Suwei. He would escape from the emergency escape at the last moment. As for the lives of others, he didn't care at all. However, he still underestimated Suwei's determination to kill him. After discovering the general's intention, Suwei turned around without hesitation and threw the alloy sword out. The speed was so fast that it was like a cannonball fired from a gun. With a sonic boom, it caught up with the general in a blink of an eye, pierced through the chest from the back, and then the huge inertia, carrying the general's body, directly pierced the opposite wall. At this time, Rick and others who were frantic rushed over and output crazy output to the armor. Unfortunately, the strength of the alloy armor was not even enough to penetrate bullets, let alone the minions of a few ordinary people. Su Wei raised his hands methodically and slapped several people to death like slapping flies. At this point, there was no survivor in the entire underground base. Su Wei did not leave in a hurry, but walked towards the wall that nailed the general's body. The general did not run to the passage, but ran straight to a wall. It can't be said that he was stupid, but it can only mean that there was something wrong with the wall. After a careful search, Su Wei really found a secret compartment. He pushed the secret compartment open and revealed an iris scanner. Without saying a word, he reached out and twisted the general's head over, and aimed his eyes at the scanner. With a beep, the verification was successful. The wall cracked from the middle, revealing a capsule-shaped cabin. Su Wei soon understood the purpose of this thing. This is an emergency escape capsule. The power used is actually explosives. Not bad. Just install calculated explosives at the bottom of the escape capsule. When encountering an emergency, the personnel hide in the escape capsule and use the bottom ignition device to ignite the explosives. Use the thrust generated by the explosion of gunpowder to push the escape capsule out along the passage. Simply put, it's like firing a cannon. The escape pod is the cannonball, the escape passage is the barrel, and the explosive is the primer. Well, not bad, simple and crude. No wonder the artificial intelligence can't detect its existence. Start the self-destruction program. Su Wei gave the artificial intelligence an order. It would be better to bury such an evil place underground forever. As he said that, he got into the escape pod and closed the hatch. Start the self-destruction program. The countdown begins. 109. The artificial intelligence projected the countdown on the display screen of the armored helmet. Let's go. Su Wei stepped on the ignition device. Boom. The rapid pushback came instantly, and the capsule-shaped escape pod immediately rose rapidly along the inclined upward passage like a cannonball. At the same time, in the energy station of the underground base, the mechanical arms pulled out the control rods in the reactor one after another. The reactor instantly turned red. The entire underground base also sounded a shrill alarm, but unfortunately a group of dead bodies couldn't hear it. Boom. The reactor exploded, and the huge shockwave penetrated everywhere, and soon caught up with the escape capsule that Su Wei was riding. Fuck, this time, it's a big deal. Feeling the sudden acceleration, Su Wei's heart sank. Why didn't he think of this? Unfortunately, it was too late. Su Wei could only hold on with both hands and push his feet firmly to stabilize his body. I hope the landing journey later will not be too bumpy. Crash. The escape capsule broke through the ground hatch and flew out, and the exit happened to be in the town of Naganjing, not far from the house where Chu Haoyan and others were hiding. Fuck, look, a flying saucer. Chu Haoyan, who is monitoring the surroundings, couldn't help but speak out. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.